I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, no, no, I think I understand that reading that, it's hard to understand this, but it's not really. All right, we'll go into the board of minutes for April 4th.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes for April 4th, 2023.
I couldn't find it, so I don't know, didn't read it.
What?
I didn't have them on I didn't read them.
Okay, so I guess we don't accept the minutes then.
I'm just telling you, I couldn't find them on my iPad. They weren't there. I looked.
I still don't get the county.
I can resend them.
Right.
They come as, I had them as a clump, because I had April 4th, April 5th, and closed session minutes, so there was a set of 3, but I can
Actually,
resend them.
Anything said minutes.
I love that, I'm fine. I mean, I give them.
You want to make sure you look at them?
You wanna
No,
take-
I mean, they're okay with you guys, they're okay with me. Or
Yeah.
You feel
I
better?
feel it.
Okay. So I make a motion that we accept the board minutes for April 4th, 2023 and April 5th, 2023
And a closed session.
in the closed session.
Yeah, there was that. I second it. Any public comment? Being none, all in favor? All right, we'll jump into correspondence. Morning, Blaine.
Morning. How we got morning? Good.
The first one from Montana in the Sky.
It's just the newsletter. Here. This might be a better way. I don't know. I need to
That
go.
was, writing in earnest support of Carol Lawson. Pending request for a full conductee and clerk court from Judge Ray J. He did. Supporting her, what are you doing with that letter? Next one's a newsletter from Mako News. I got this in the mail too.
You did?
Yeah. And then the next one's prescribed burning they're gonna do down the Lowell National Forest. Forest Service. And the next one's Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority newsletter from Elena sent to us. The April board meeting agenda. And the last one is from Cynthia Pearson's on a whole bunch of me sent out on the public employees retirement board meetings. They're in Helena on the 13th at 8:30 a.m. That's all I have for correspondence. Any comments? All right, we'll jump right into public comment. I've had a couple calls on it. Go ahead, Elena.
Thank you. Elena Gagliano for the record. And first of all, on correspondence, I want to thank Billy for putting that up. The meeting is tomorrow. And again, I invite you all to be there to get an update on what's going on. I've tried to get the newspaper, the local newspaper, to do an update. I'm still waiting for that. I mean, a lot of people in this county are backing and supporting the Big Sky Passenger Rail. And so again, thank you, Billy, and also thank you for putting on the calendar. Again, the meeting, this is our monthly meeting. It starts at 11:30 to about 12. And you'll be hearing about it later on in the day when the field rep for Senator Zinke comes on. I'll be coming back then. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Hello?
He said he will continue to give us the tender reports until we have hired his replacement. I haven't received one today, but
I was just asking about the dam tender. Dam tender.
Any other public comment?
Any more public comment?
No.
Could I talk to you guys about the 1231 close here for a minute?
Okay. Okay, we're back on. We're gonna go into the weekly report. Paul won't be here this morning. They bring the two trucks back. They'll have them here today. They left last night. They'll have them back today.
Who's they?
Brad and Nick, when they bring them back.
I just have a question while we're on the weekly report for the road and bridge and that's the makers. So I remember last year saying that for a good paper trail to go through and make registers through have the clerk and recorder. But do the registration and stuff instead of going and just throwing it on the credit card. So we kind of have an idea who's going and who's not going, and he didn't, he just went and registered them right there with the credit card.
Oh. I
And-
didn't know who was going, I didn't. think
Well,
he
and
was.
if this is through the grapevine that, Mr. Tyco went, why would he go if he's retiring at the end of the month?
I don't know if you can tell him not to, or. I
Well,
don't
this
know.
is it, he just said he was going and he was gonna use his credit card. And so we don't know anything. And I don't think it's a micromanagement deal where it should be going through the county. On just exactly who's going in and. Because if it's a training thing. And it's a learning session. Then. Why did someone go that is retiring? I mean, that's just
I don't know.
and we don't know anything about it, and had I known, I would have said, well, why is he going? I would have asked him point blank.
Yeah, I didn't know who was going till the day of, or when they're there.
After they-
Jim and Brad and Vic, and Ian was gonna go, but.
He didn't go.
And
Yeah, they go learn stuff. I know what you're talking, I know what you're exactly what you're saying. However, they did work hard all year and to me, they wanna go over there and they might pick up something.
Okay, no, that doesn't, no,
No,
you don't work hard all year, then you go over and do some training and have some dinners with the vendors and. As a reward. That's not supposed to be a reward, it's supposed to be a training thing.
I know.
they did go to classes, I will say that, and I know what you're saying, why he go, but I don't.
Okay, never mind, I guess it was a moot thing to even bring up, but. I'm concerned with the fact that. All that money spent for someone that's leaving at the end of the month. So the training kind of went out the window, and I'm not saying that anybody else should have went in his place. But all I'm saying is. And it's not you're treating it like it's a reward for all the hard work they do. No,
That's me.
Anyway, let's move on.
That's me, okay?
I got quite a bit here, the gravel pit, they surveyed it, it's at 11,400. Still got a ways to go, and it broke down right now.
11,400, good. Get more.
They still gotta get, I think, but he's broke down right now, waiting for
well,
the guy out with.
Contractor. Yeah.
the contractor broke down. Well, that's good.
He's had some rough time out there, it's just, we've been trying to get parts, we all know that, we can't get nothing. So, on that, and then, Hans was gonna survey the dump, and he hadn't had time because he's had a really bad time cat. So.
I don't think it's a dire thing to do.
But I wanted to know for that meeting tomorrow night or Thursday night, but that's just,
You just say you're working on it. Yeah.
I just,
This was mentioned, what, last week, that we couldn't just run and say, hey, let's go survey this. It's not like you can just say, okay, I want you to go survey it tomorrow.
no, we just, we said we.
Yeah.
Done, so we know who's. But he can't get.
What meeting tomorrow night?
Or Thursday night, what that,
Joint meeting.
Joint. The joint
Thursday
meeting,
night?
we can put the camera on you, no.
I'll give you a heads up, I might have to go to a funeral, so. I don't know.
Oh, come on, no.
In the evening,
You use an excuse before.
Thursday morning or funeral, so.
You're not
Anyway,
going?
I don't know today, for sure.
so it's Thursday at 6.
At the
Town
Town
hall.
hall.
in town hall, right? Thursday at 6, town hall. Is the joint session. I'll go, I'll make sure I represent the commissioners. Okay,
Anyway, on that note, and then that bridge post, everybody got that this morning, Paul went, we got, looked at all the bridges we have, none of them are posted, we're gonna. next week when he comes in, we need to really figure out which bridges that we should throw signs and leave them on, you know, so we. With this weather and that. But we had some few old signs, but they don't match that, so. I just throw them away and start over.
So we'd have to get signs for all these bridges.
He says it's up to us, there's some that he should and some that, you know, will probably be all right. He was gonna. Come in and. He just went through, we asked him to make sure that we had this week.
Yeah.
He went and did it Sunday, so.
Put that on the agenda
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah. It seems like the trucks are in pretty good shape. They're on the, like I said, they'll be here this afternoon. Lots of flooding in Lower Valley, there's quite a few roads, they're up working on the main road, but hell, Manchester just working the road out there and there right now. Good Creek's plugged up, a lot of these culverts, you know, it starts to get all that shit and floods them, it's flooding there. Yes, the Lower Valley, it's 76 yesterday, so. Maybe this cooler weather will slow it down, and we can actually see where we really need to dig and go and start. And we'll be back in. They
running around like I said, when culverts flowed down the East Fork Road. And couple, or three of them are gone. Is anybody looking for this kind of stuff? The unplugged culverts and.
I went and looked yesterday, I had a couple calls, I ran and looked, and really you're not gonna do nothing until it lowers a little bit, but they got that little excavator on that trailer running around cleaning out the front and trying to do the best they can, like, but they're up Mullen Road now, because it's washing it out. That's, there's people who live up behind there, and that's the only way you can get in and out, you can't, the road goes through with you, never. So, yeah, they're. Johnny and them were. This up here didn't, I don't think started flooding it, right outside of town it did. I don't know from there up, but down it's hitting. The creek's way up. River's up. So. Couple other ones called, there's potholes, well. Yeah.
If we get some dry weather, we're gonna have to get some spot plating on some of these, like in front of. One driveway on the East Fork, it's horrible. I mean, it's horrible.
Whose driveway?
Chuck's way.
It's not my driveway, not my driveway, no driveway.
No, I
On East Fork.
just teasing, I just got. But no, there's a bunch of them, they're gonna have to spot, I think they'll probably start hitting down lower first, cause it's melting out fast down there, where you got a lot more snow here. Like up Rock Creek, and I've got a lot of rock sliding, and a guy called, and I was going to Missoula, so I zipped up and looked there, and there was like 2 rocks. I just threw them off the road, I mean, they gotta help themselves too, you can't just.
Is this over the weekend?
Yeah. Sunday.
Well, good for you, I'm glad you went.
I mean, it's.
So a question on blading, is it policy? They probably have to blade. They blade once when in the spring for the potholes, when the ground is still kind of wet, and then they would blade more than once, right?
Correct.
I mean, you don't blade once and then forget it for the rest of the.
They hit them like some of that, like the middle and all that, they hit them 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
a year, just depends on the travel, and like that one year with the fires, not the water board, but they hit it but we got paid for that too by the Forest Service on the fires, but. I think this year we got so much more, and then we're getting more and more traffic there, yeah, it's gonna be a lot more boring. A lot. And that's about all, was there anything else? I'm trying to remember.
So the solid waste thing with. Lynn, she brought into you
Oh,
reports.
the town of Drummond had emailed me a list of things that they were requesting for information wise, and that's. About the extent of it that I have, I was just going to end it.
I guess I don't know where she's going, or the mayor, right?
So what's the
The
list?
clerk gave it to me.
Oh.
Is it everyone? and how much each person's dumping?
no.
Those reports look like. Are those reports what Drummond and P-Bird have dumped? The town of,
Their reports of what everyone it looks like is dumped. You can mark those there.
so we use every resident in Granite County?
What it's showing, cause she said,
Yeah, that's-
unless she has the tax ID number of the people, I mean, you gotta give everything, what do we?
It looks like what the reports are is every person.
One thing, if I talk about solid waste. Lynn had some more changes for that policy, so because there's. Like hours of operations and other things needed modified to get it to what's going on now, so. I can make those changes, it could be on, if you want it on the agenda for like April 25th or something like that, but. There's not anything. real
But what are the
substantial.
hours different?
Yeah, they changed from,
Like that one there, the 10 to 6, and this one's 8 to 4, whatever, it's the ones that we left over, they're just.
yeah, I should have got it in there before, I didn't realize there were, changes needed, so. If that could be on for April 25th when I have the changes, or
Right.
whenever you want it.
Okay, so it just said 10 to 4, and you wanna make note that P-Bird is 8 to 4 and
Like what
Drummond
we're
is
talking
10 to
about.
6.
It's just going back through to make sure we have, I guess, and then on this other stuff, I don't know what they're wanting, or what's this leading to on this, all this dumping and stuff, we got.
Well, the question is, we wanted to get just an idea of what the town of Drummond dumped. And the town of Phillipsburg dumped, whether or not we're going to put a dump fee on both town sites.
Correct.
Yeah,
It's
or.
just, but
Or capping what they can dump and then fee after. One of the things I was thinking of is. I talked about how you look at the potentially fair market value of the lease and then that per year, and that's what the value they get in dumping. The issue with that though is if it's a 50-year lease, that's gonna climb, though, like the dump fees are gonna climb, and so maybe astronomical to the county after 50 years, so you may wanna. Look at that being adjusted like every 5 to 10
I don't
years.
think the county, or they want a 50-year lease from the way they talked last week. They were looking at the 50-year lease and kind of frowning on it, both town
Yeah,
sites.
and maybe that's too much, but I think you guys want to put in improvements, you should lock it in. It's really run pretty smooth here.
we're gonna put bathrooms and stuff in, I mean, we need to have something guaranteeing that tomorrow they don't shut down and then they take over spend the money and.
It is giving,
I don't think they would. I
They
don't
should
think,
just give us a land, I mean, look at all we do with
Well,
them.
but then you're taking on that liability that's there
We
too.
have it anyway. though.
Well, yeah, we have it anyway.
Well, liability that you've created, but liability that existed before you could have it inspected, but. And I'm against, my advice would be not to take ownership of it, but.
You have a public
I
comment.
agree.
Elena, go ahead. We were.
Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong. Oh, she moved. Hold on. Sorry, Elena. My screen rearranged.
Oh, that's okay, thank you. Sorry, but two things. First of all, this is supposed to be the time for the dam tenders report. And I think there's people on that want to talk about that. Secondly, if Paul Alt isn't there, how can you be talking about it? And if you're talking about solid waste, I believe there's a secretary, so why isn't she there? But I don't see anything on the agenda discussing, there's a solid waste weekly report. So if Paul's not there, there is a secretary, I believe. Why isn't she giving it? Okay, but right now, this is the time for the dam report. Thank you.
I know, but. This stuff, I mean, we had a closed session, we had
you as chair have the discretion over that and go.
He needs to stop.
So, as far as the commission is over solid waste, so
It's on the agenda. We can talk about it. I heard her telling us how to run these damn meetings. Always everything's wrong. She said, any other things on the road and the,
And
Solid
solid
waste.
waste.
and then we'll move on. Now you're happy? Damn tenders report, Georgetown Lake Outflow. Paul Talon is here. He, you state your name and that, what you do.
My name is Paul Talon, I take care of the hydroelectric plant.
Okay, so now that the introduction's done, we'll go into it's 6428.4, 13.2 inches.
what's the outflow right now?
We're going back to where we were last Tuesday at 25 CFS. Give us a little more freeboard up there. The inflow right now is like around 20.
Very close, what, I can't hear you.
The inflow is about 20 right now,
I thought somebody said it was 30 something last week.
31 CFS on average for 2 weeks. The storms, whenever there's a storm, it goes up. Because it covers the lake, so everything comes up. And there's been a storm again.
One thing, I talked to Brad Lehrman because he had a question about my interpretation of the FERC order. And I may have misspoke last week a little bit, but the section I was relying upon is the section that talks about if you're gonna potentially have uncontrolled outflows that go over the spillway, then the county can control outflows to affect that, so you don't have water going over the spillway later on. That's in 402 or the article subsection C. So what really doesn't, the matching inflows was basically just so you guys weren't letting I was meaning that so you weren't letting too much out, because you have to be within 1 foot of at the end of May. Also, what was my thinking there? That Todd Blythe's report talks about if you let out an average of 45 CFS in April, May, then you won't have. Talking to Jason Vitor, he was wanting you to let out more now, so you're not letting out, he thinks you do damage when you're letting out the damage to ranchers' infrastructure if you're letting out high volumes later on in May. That was his point. He was good. Maybe he's on. Is he on Zoom?
He is not. We do have Brad Lehrman on Zoom this morning though, or unless he had called in, I don't know the end of his phone number.
And I don't want to speak for Brad. Brad wasn't upset with your decision because he was fine with it. It's just whether that's a temporary modification or not was the question. Letting out more than 10 CFS.
So we're at 20 today, 25 today. What's your motion?
I'm thinking.
No, I guess because we're talking about, I thought we better get a motion in first.
Oh, okay. Can we discuss this a little bit more before? So we did say last week 30 and then watch it if you had to go up or down, and that's what you did,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the reason you're at 25 is,
Just to get us some more freeboard, it's going to storm again tomorrow. So, we'll be pushing that a little fast. And all this mountain going on, what's up there.
Well, I think you guys got luckier up here, they've been like down below 5. And it was 76 yesterday, and we got water. Then today it's cool, thank God, because otherwise it was.
Yeah, there's water, and economists having troubles.
so when you go in here and you look at the comparison to last year. And last year we were 6, right? we were 6 until May 15th. So right now, last year, at this time, it was 6428.5. And now, looking at it on the screen now, it's 6428.41. So that's close, and we're letting out 25 right now today. Keeping it at 25.
I speak for a second, if. You know, I think if we don't go up, we're gonna go over your spillway.
So, and then, Vitor is saying, let more out. We are letting more out compared to last year.
Well, I think he was, happy with what.
With what
you
we're
guys
doing right
voted.
now.
Yeah, he was gonna try to be here, but, yeah, must have got tied up.
Well, I think last year we kept it at 6 just to make sure we filled. And what were we at full pull? Do you remember when?
When I think
Right at the end,
Right before we went to the
thirties,
30.
when we have to let out 30.
Okay. So I would make a motion to do it at 25. Do you think we should do it at 30?
I was thinking, but I don't.
Well, I mean,
I don't know what we got, if we got more coming, but it's not as hot up here, I mean, we're holding. It's, and like Chuck said, at least it's actually going in the ground out your way, right? And that's kind of what you said this morning.
I haven't seen the runoff.
Yeah, that's
Can-
what I'm worried about, all of a sudden we're gonna get hit with the runoff.
Can we ask Brad? Can Brad get on and maybe make a comment?
Brad is on.
Brad?
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, obviously up to you guys, but I think, I mean, 25 or 30 seems reasonable. It's, you know, like you said, you know, we don't want to see the reservoir drop a bunch, but we understand you got to adjust for inflow that's coming with fair, you know, decently high snowpack. So, but yeah, I don't want to get involved too much, but yeah, it's 25 or 30 seems reasonable to me.
So you think 30?
Yeah, I do. I think we're gonna get hit, I think it's gonna.
So your opinion, Paul?
Yeah, we, only check some others, but 5% of our snowpack is melted off in the last week also.
How much?
5%. Peterson Meadows and that.
So it's gonna get more.
Yeah, it's gonna come and it's gonna come fast. I think it would. And my thought is avoid that spillway at all costs. You know, if we have an inspection in May, I don't think it's good to be going over it. You know, they said it wouldn't matter, but I don't think it's a good thing. So wherever we can get to, fill the lake up and.
But it's gonna fill when it gets warm. For a minute and then it'll go back down.
It'll be over spillway. No matter what we do, I think at this point, I don't think we can catch it.
So what the comment was, the snowpack, they were saying the snowpack is almost at 100%.
Oh, it's well beyond that.
It's over 100%.
The snow water equivalent at Pearson Meadows was 100 or 108%, I think. Someone said that Pearson Meadows is not what goes into Georgetown. Pearson Meadows is the one right above Georgetown, isn't it?
It feeds in there.
Yeah. But it's just a kind of a sample of what the area is.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's full.
Okay, so then rethinking this and going on comments, I will make a motion to let out 30.
I'll second it. Public comment on the motion. Being none, all in favor?
I
No.
nay. Nay say aye.
So 30.
30.
Okay.
Then just keep us posted, cause I got a feeling something this week from
Yeah, keep an eye on it, I'll call you if I see anything. I don't know.
Should the motion be that maybe to watch it and let out more than 30 or what? If it gets up too warm?
You could. You could modify your motion, but,
Okay, we'll just say it 30. 30.
I think we better just say it 30.
All right, yeah, I'll forward anything I have. Okay, thanks, you can get it to you guys, so. All right.
Right.
Have a good day.
Okay, so. We're moving on to the job description update, secretary, paralegal, and county attorney's office discussion and decision. You want this open or closed?
well, I think the, job description should be
Right.
open. What I would ask is today, you just look at the, just look at the job description, and then we look at the grade and step later on. I haven't looked at really any of that, but I know we talked about potentially what we do, but I would just ask you just look at the job description today and then, before budgets, I mean, right at the budget time, we can talk about the grade and step.
Okay.
We'll
So
have
we'll
the,
take this under advisement, look at it and table it for the first.
well, I
So
think you do the
if-
job description itself today if you wanted, and then.
Well,
just the-
I think, looking at the different. But criteria that probably wasn't really looked at when we did, which I didn't have anything to do with the 10. But the commission and wrote it or bumped it from a 9 to a 10 when Claudette was hired.
Or was it when Dell got her?
No,
certificate?
it was a 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Cause I was still in the office
Okay,
and you requested that being that he was a paralegal, that her job description.
okay,
So it went up to a 10.
I don't
Yeah, I know,
remember
I
that at all.
And then different things. That are coming into the situation that were probably not considered.
Right.
When she was a grade 10.
I-
So I myself feel that, and we'll do this during the new budget, I think it should be brought up to a grade 11. And then, like you say, you wanna look at the situation to see if it would be entry level or if it would be a step 1.
Yeah,
Or,
different step, yeah,
but what we wanna do is we don't want her to make less, bumping it to an 11.
I'll make sure.
yeah, correct. Yeah, that's why I'm looking at that.
Deal, yeah, we're done.
I guess the job yeah, okay, so, yeah, if you could. Look at the job description, prove it, and then we can talk about grade and stuff later on.
Well,
For the
the grade 11 is already,
Okay, yeah, all right, it's step later on.
Steps.
Step later on.
and the one thing that I wanted to clarify is is the fact that, and this is just our unique matrix for Granite County. And just that we can compare other counties, but we also need to look at the value of our mills compared to other counties. And what Granite County can afford, still being, we have very good benefits on the side of where you're looking at, you might be paying someone $21, but on the benefit side, it's more like $55 an hour,
Agreed.
just
And
saying.
I do like the matrix in that it's rewarding. People who have satisfactory good job performances and you get the rewards with, so I think I like the matrix, yeah.
We just wanna make sure it's fair, and that
Yeah.
people get what they deserve, you know,
Well, I think
where we didn't.
the research was done for this, and at the time, and this was a long time ago, it was back in 1994 when we went on the matrix. But there was great research done, and it was done by the local government at MSU department. And they pulled everything in for unique Granite County, so someone can't come in and unless they've been working in a government entity before and be jumped up to a step 3 or a step 5 because. You know what I mean? It's what Granite County can afford is the only thing that I'm trying to say. Because what's gonna happen. And I'm on my soapbox right now and I better get off it, but. We need to really make sure that Granite County can afford
Yeah,
the, because what's gonna, and I'm not saying this, I'm just saying.
I totally understand, but yeah, you gotta look, if, say, if something happened and then they leave, and then you gotta retrain, what's that cost the county as, you know, that's the next step, is you gotta kind of look.
Well, and that's
What
why
you
it's
got,
entry
yeah.
level.
Yeah.
It
Gotta
goes in
be the
entry
right
level.
one, because otherwise, you know, get somebody else come in and do what
Right.
they've been doing, that'll cost us more money. That's,
I
you know,
Well, it's
it'll
entry
pay-
level
I-
for training it
yeah.
has on the job training. It's not
absolutely.
costing me any more than what the entry level is.
Alrighty.
I agree with what you're saying. One thing though, I would say too is, with that taken into account, I think. Keeping deputies, sheriff's deputies is gonna be tough in this market.
But they're
It's,
statute.
yeah. Well,
But we're gonna
so
get-
I think, but they're separated now, can be given extra from the, clerk reporting treasurers in that new law. So you guys did bump them up last year, something to look at.
But there's still statute underneath sheriff,
Let's
right?
stay on this in one part.
Yeah,
here.
but-
Let's just stay on.
But, well, I'm just,
And we
I
can
just
put
think
that on
the matrix is good, as
Stay in this. Okay?
understood.
Otherwise we ask, and then it's getting me goofed up, so let's just stay with what we're doing, we'll look. So are we gonna approve this then? Is that what we're doing today?
I would say yes,
Wanna make
Yeah.
a motion?
a motion. So the motion would be, moving the matrix level of the, county attorney's office to a paralegal credential grade 11. And but this matrix level legal secretary grade 10 is wrong. The legal secretary was grade 9, so
We can change that. then. We
yeah,
don't
he was a paralegal grade 10.
But this is the new one, right?
Yeah,
This is the
you
new
have
one,
legal
yeah.
secretary grade 10 to a paralegal grade 11, but she was a paralegal grade 10.
But if someone was to be hired, like if I was to apply for a legal secretary position, I don't have that paralegal credential, would I be hired then at a grade 10?
So and then
I
in
guess
the
distinction.
matrix, a paralegal is a grade 9.
No, I'm asking.
I mean, a
for-
legal secretary is a grade 9.
So if I was a legal secretary, even under that new job description, I would still start at a grade 9.
But you say grade 10.
I know, that's what I'm asking.
The legal secretary grade is a 9. You have legal secretary
Oh,
grade
I
10.
hear what you're saying.
Just cross the 10 out, put a 9. Is that
It's
what you're trying to
it's a
say?
mistake here.
Well-
It could be paralegal grade 11 to or grade 10 to a paralegal grade 11. A legal secretary is a grade 9.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, I second the motion.
Okay.
Oh, and approving the job description too. I don't know if that was in your motion.
That's
but-
what I.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you've increased the duties and that was what you had to do to bring her level to a grade 11. There's increased and
Public comment
Elena,
on the motion.
Elena Gagliano, public comment on the motion. As a person from the public and reading this draft, it is confusing because it's sort of combining legal secretary grade 10, paralegal credential grade 11. And they're two entirely different ballgames. Paralegal, college, and the whole bit. And a legal secretary, heck, I could apply for a legal secretary if I knew how to type. But I think it's confusing how it's been written. position legal secretary dash paralegal. And then in the body of it, paralegal, legal secretary, it is confusing. That's my public comment. Thank you.
We could state under there if hired as just a legal secretary without a paralegal certificate, grade 9. If hired as with the paralegal certificate, grade 11.
I think
That's-
My opinion right now, Blaine, if I may, we're bumping her up because of her job description. Did she decide that, okay, retire or do something else, it would go back to the legal secretary position, which would be a grade 9, and then go from there if you hired another paralegal to a grade 11.
So.
So
that's-
this has, I don't think we need to be putting the legal grade thing in there from. I'm thinking that we're gonna bump her up to a grade 11. Cause you have increased her
Yeah.
duties.
But I think what Lane is saying is. What if you hire just a legal secretary in the future? It's not clear from reading that what it would be. I think that's what she's saying. We could say. If hire a legal secretary without a paralegal, it's a grade 9.
I don't
If-
think
if you
that,
want.
I think this is a job description. I don't think we're gonna do if and or. It would be a legal secretary. I think if you hire a legal secretary, we'll pull that job description for a legal secretary. You see what I mean?
Yeah, okay,
It shouldn't even compare legal
Yeah.
or paralegal. This should be a paralegal grade 11 position. Increasing your paralegal because your job duties have increased
yeah,
to the point of. See what I mean?
yeah, I see what you mean.
On that note, all in favor?
I
Aye. Wait a minute, yeah,
Hi,
alrighty.
Thanks.
mean, see what I mean?
Okay, we're moving on. We have
Okay.
the next one, Roxy Davis to discuss concerns over the nuisance dog ordinance. Come on up, Roxy. Would you state your name and?
Roxy Regis.
So, what's this about? You can sit down, do whatever you want.
Well, I was ticketed for a nuisance dog, for my livestock guardians. And, I want to always follow the law and, I wanna always get along with all people, I don't ever intend to do anything against the law. Judge Bratsky showed me this new ordinance. And I did get legal advice and he said it doesn't comply with state law, this dog ordinance. With working dogs and guardian dogs. My guardian dogs are livestock. And our ranch was in existence way before the interstate, the frontage road and the railroad. And that land was given up. So our ranch is on both sides of all of those. And we struggle with that on a regular basis. And we work really hard to make a living and pay our taxes ranching. I was just on the phone to Vicki Weaver, who is one of the hardest working people I know. She works very hard to survive with the frontage road going there, the interstate, the other way, and the problems that all of the influx of new people have caused. I don't think that this ordinance is in agreement with state law. And I think it's unjustified.
So question. The ordinance that we passed last year, is it a yearly ordinance that we have to? or is
Yeah,
it-
it talks about that you re-up it every year. You don't have to, you could do it permanent. The provision she's talking about is that there's you have an exception for like the barking if it's basically if it's a ranch, but as far as the being on the road and so forth. That part of it, there's no exception. I'm not aware of any, like grandfathering anything, but I could talk, we could talk more about that.
Did you get a ticket or something, or what's?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
For being on the road,
For my dog being on the road.
Oh, I didn't know that, that's why I was wondering what they did, because I voted against the loose the same time.
Thank you.
when is that ordinance thing back up again for review?
The end of the year.
That's a little extreme,
Huh?
that's a little extreme, giving a ticket for a ranch dog.
Well,
So it's December, it could be looked at sooner than that.
Does it-
You don't have the sheriff here to have his side of it, either, I mean, he's feeling like the dogs were out on the road that were gonna cause an accident, was his feeling. So,
I mean, I live down there too, and I mean, you're used to them, they're there all the time, I guess it's me. I don't know, it's just everyday deal, I don't think that person needs to be a ticket, because they do go over and they watch. I've actually seen them out in their fields and that, watching cows and coyotes that time when I call, so they still gotta. Their dogs, it's not gonna stay in one spot when she got cows and sheep, whatever, up the draw too, they go back and forth, it's no different. And that is a stock pass that goes underneath there.
It is.
so you guys,
It was built specifically for that.
And that's when you get your dad said, yeah.
That's where the dogs typically patrol. And they also, I'm not against the sheriff's concerns. Sometimes they are a problem. And I try to mediate that. But I also know that if we have a sheriff on duty, he might be in Rock Creek. And these dogs protect. We have hitchhikers and transients all the time. They, Scott knows, his wife works at Dog Wholesale. Dog Wholesale loves the dogs. They patrol that area. They don't always know the exact border of the ranch. I had new neighbors moved in, on the hill, and they have little children. Their children were terrified of dogs. And now they love them. They say they know that their kids can play outside because when mountain lions come through, we also have a bus stop right there. Mountain lions come through there. All kinds of predators do. And when that predator comes through, the dogs are gonna go. Well, unfortunately, they also see dogs, barking and yelling in the back of people's pickups as a predator. So that's a threat to them, but they're gonna follow a predator. If a mountain lion comes through my place and heads to town or heads on up Highway 1, they're gonna go with it.
And it's getting to be more and more people are staying underneath that. Your thing, yeah, you drive by and it's surprising how many people, my biggest, the dogs aren't the problem, the bicyclists are the problem to me.
Well, ranchers, we can't carry guns with our work all the time. I'm not a a real quick thinker as far as fear, when something happens, but people don't pass my dogs. And believe me, I've had the sheriff come in. We can't protect your place.
I hear you. I feel this needs to be readdressed. I think it needs to be on the agenda and readdress this ordinance.
My first one, this nuisance thing was a whole completely looking at it different, and that's why I never. It was,
Yeah.
I just. looked
And,
at
and
it.
I went on your comment, Blaine, that the sheriff really is in favor of this ordinance. Where I said I was for it, but I really think it needs to be readdressed. I think it needs to be on the agenda.
Have an exception for working ranch dog.
No, I think we could dump the whole thing. It's how I feel right now about it.
Well, I think
No,
it's just-
it's still needed in subdivisions, towns.
so we have the exception already for the barking, they're protecting their livestock dog. You could have the exception, the livestock exception for the whole for the whole ordinance. That's something to consider.
And then
Um,
look in underneath what if we need to check and make sure it is all with the state law, where she's saying that don't think it is, so me and a person would have to, I mean, we can table this and look into it a little more, but totally understand what she's got going on.
When we did this, I was not thinking of ranch dogs. I was thinking about subdivisions and towns and whatever, where there's more,
So you could
where
accept
there's more people.
livestock dogs, yeah.
Huh?
You could amend the ordinance before December anytime. You just need on the agenda.
One of the person even puts up signs there, watch for dogs. I mean, it's a crossing, it's been a crossing since I mean, the
State,
person might be able to put something, I don't know if you can, that'd be something
Be talking to the state, secondary state highway, so talking to
no
the.
different than an out crossing or something, but they go underneath that stop path, and they go out in that field and. Yeah, they sometimes will follow pickups in town, but like you're saying, there's dogs in the back of it, yapping at them. Well, that's their duty. I ain't told it pretty good.
Well, Vicky says, you know, her ranch working dogs, they're in the road. They're, you know. Often, and she says they're gonna be ticketing me. And. We have to have these dogs for our livelihood.
You know, and there for a while, that lady lived beside me, her dog come out, remember, and chasing bicycles, that was a big deal, remember, there was tickets, and, oh, man, that was bad.
Right. But
I
another
mean,
thing is that
again,
the traffic doesn't really slow down. They're coming into town and they're driving 75 miles an hour past there. And you know, I mean, they have to make that curve and there's school bus stops along there. The traffic doesn't slow down. A lot of this influx of people,
And it's a blind corner coming in right into where you come.
it's very blind.
It's a blind corner, cause if they're coming down.
This is the frontage road.
Yeah.
Which side of?
West.
West of Drum, you just go around that circle like that, come, her ranch is right, just. You can see,
All wholesale, then you're the next.
but no, I.
So you want it on the agenda
I
next
do,
week?
And we need to look into it.
So amending the ordinance,
I'd like to
2021
amend it.
I'm
or 22
I'm for abolishing it.
or just, you want another
So
discussion
here's
on
the
it,
thing,
or?
If
I
they're,
think a
if they're in
discussion.
a subdivision, okay, and they ran in the road, well, are you in a subdivision or are you a guard dog?
I had 2 dogs up there in my yard barking at me
Yeah, well,
about 2 days ago.
then talk to the neighbors.
I think that, we need to put this on for next week table and discussion to see, I wanna make sure that put it as a decision. And then look into this a little more and see what the law says and what if the guy can do it or have to abolish it or whatever. I just totally, I'm 100% behind it.
So maybe the agenda item could say abolishing or amending. Nuisance dog ordinance 2022-1.
And I've seen them out there calling their dogs, it's not that they don't take care of them.
I try,
only
try,
one.
sometimes I try to tie one up for a period of time. I got this ticket, it happened shortly after I had a brain injury. I got hit in the head with a cow. And. flying over a cow.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't really on top of everything for a little while. But
And they've been there for how many years, come on. I mean, that's, you know, we all know about them, I know they can be a pain. Vicky's come out on the highway too, I mean, it's, you know, and they've had them ran over and it's, I mean, they're starting to look. These dogs, the ranch dogs aren't usually tied up. They're usually
They can't
tucked in
be,
a
they
big
were,
house. Yeah, no good tied up, only the cows up.
The only thing I would say is. You can make a decision next week, but it's still, if you're amending and abolishing, you still need it on for another week for an amended ordinance or new ordinance.
So you'd want public
Amended.
comment,
Yeah.
right? You'd want maybe
Yeah.
people who are interested.
I just
For or
wanted to
against
make
it.
sure on the decision that we can move ahead with it, if we just put, you know, so we can make a motion to move on with how we said it, then we can do a public comment.
Yeah, all I'm saying, need to be on another time to have the actual
Right.
ordinance in front of you.
Anything else, Ron?
no, thank you guys for your time and your work. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Roxy. Thank you very much.
Oh, any public comment? All right. Catching back up, we got a few minutes here.
So you think that's gonna cause problems when I shoot the dog in my yard?
I don't see why it would, they're on your property, right? Why?
It wouldn't cause any problem.
I don't know.
The owner of the dog would be upset, but
Yeah.
like they have a right to do it.
What happened with the deer thing? It was in the paper in Whiskey Flats.
So now the sheriff's office is writing tickets to.
Somebody shoot a
Dogs
dog
that are
in
in
Whiskey
the-
Flats for chasing
Yeah,
deer.
they got.
These dogs, they never.
Mike was a day more than.
And they fucking, they'll be standing there.
They're shooting a
They
subdivision.
just go down the street to come to their house or something and then put up dog time, cause I'll tell you that there's so many wrecks there, you look at the fence and that, it's just that. And then you get that blind corner and then like I said, bicycles, they're a pain out there.
So they're doing 75 miles an hour along that road,
Oh, hell yeah.
then why don't we have somebody down there?
Picking them up with
Picking 'em
speeding
up.
tickets.
If they come into that corner, there's black marks and stuff, and then, cause when you're coming east, you come in right from her house, a school bus stops up here, when you come, you're right on the school bus, and that's. There's 4 or 5 kids getting off there now that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in the old Spackman, I
Yeah.
don't know who they are, but,
Yeah.
and then Roxy's daughter, I don't know if her kid gets on there still, or they. If
I don't know.
they live there now, or what.
Last year they were living there, I think, cause
Well, down there, instead of writing tickets for dogs, they should be writing tickets for speeding.
And then,
The-
you know, and everybody has dogs in back, I have my dog back, if you go by there, yeah, them dogs see a dog and they're.
I honestly thought it was just barking dog thing. I guess I didn't read it well enough. Say if the dog's on the highway, you're gonna get.
I think just when it first come in, I was at a place, well, I still take it.
Yeah. I think the ordinance is talking about chasing, that they're interpreting as, you know, yeah, cutting off a car that you're. So it's something for you guys to look at, you know, the exception does apply to the barking, cause it's, if it's protecting livestock, but you can make exception broader, or you can just abolish it. The guy with
These
whiskey,
people need to take care of their own damn dogs, you're totally with you, Chuck, when they come out, I mean, mine are tied up.
No, it's just gonna cause big problems. If you have a law that says, okay, that I could call up and say, okay, your dogs are bothering me. And they get a ticket for innocent, you know, whatever.
So did they get a ticket for bothering you?
Well, throw their barking at me, I mean, in my yard, and. That alleviates a lot of problems between. Rather than me taking force against the dog.
the issue with that, what he's talking about is there's the disorderly conduct where it's the disturbing the peace by unusual or loud noises. But that takes, there has to be more than one person, there has to be a few people disturbed, so. The disorderly conduct's not broad enough. The guy that was in Whiskey Flats that shot the dog that was chasing the deer. That was close to houses and he was intoxicated.
Yeah.
And it was also, yeah, he was also charged with cruelty to animals, a misdemeanor, and pled guilty to that.
I just think it needs to be looked at, readdressed, and like I said, it was.
Well, I mean, here, it says right there, I don't know why that ticket was written. Because it accepts agricultural livestock operation.
But only for the barking, only for that barking subsection, not the
And she's.
Not the
ain't got to
chasing.
take her
All
dog.
we're gonna do is say,
both sections, yeah.
yeah,
It's an
any
exception
dog
to
for
this whole-
agriculture or whatever.
Yeah,
And I know she, you know, what they want the dog.
Yeah.
I know, but
Yeah.
She knows that. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
They can be a nuisance.
so
Okay.
that could easily be amended, let's say, I mean, now. It says exceptions under D, subsection A herein shall not apply to a dog that is owned, kept, or harbored as part of the business of a licensed veterinary, animal boarding facility. Or agriculture or livestock operation, so again, that's only the barking. So you could say, A and B.
That's the thing, I think person needs to look it over better and then see what the law where she said.
Yeah.
What don't.
And
That'd be something we'd have to look up.
if this is valid. Which trespasses on real property, damages any property, chases any person or any wheeled object, so. That's a little gray area cutting off a vehicle that, but they were, the sheriff was. Saying someone's gonna get hurt or gonna be in an accident trying to avoid a dog, that's what his point was, so. I would get his comments at least on what you plan to do.
I didn't know if you got a ticket, otherwise we couldn't call Scott there and come in. Yeah, that's the first I heard about it. I mean,
The,
We'll just hire a dog catcher to run all over the county and
I'm.
pass out tickets.
People just need to learn to take care of their own shit.
And we'll fund it to the sheriff's office and get rid of his deputy.
No way.
one thing Judge Pratsky did is gave her probation with a suspended fine and told her to go talk to the commission, so. Her fine is suspended. Subject
Hers
to
was?
yeah, probation, so and subject to her coming to talk to the commission and.
Well, it's the insult of having a ticket, I think she felt.
Well, I think she's worried
Yeah.
that it's gonna get another one or something because the dogs are.
Gonna-
like.
Well,
That's
I-
why
Well, I'd be upset too, you know, if I had a ranch there and road happened to go through my place and but we've been ranching for I don't know how many years. And then they come along and write a ticket to the
Yeah.
dog,
It's
dog crossing the highway because it's got cows on the other side. No, I'd be upset too.
I just wonder if you couldn't put signs up, though, that might help. a little
Yeah,
bit.
you need to talk to the state highway, but I told her
That'd be the
Yeah.
first start, if you
Yeah.
could maybe
She said she was gonna talk to me.
put the signs up and then they need, if there's a word, a speed study needs.
Yeah,
They don't want to do it.
unless there's accidents there. Yeah,
From
that
the
yield, we have to yield the people going on to getting onto the highway. A lot of, some people don't yield there.
And
It's
look how
a,
many wrecks have been there.
yeah,
I mean, then you go up, yeah,
Well, then they should. That should justify a speed study if there's a bunch of wrecks in it.
but nobody's been killed. It seems like unless you normally get shaken from something, it's a disaster. I don't think they ever had to be so.
Should have thought of that and got that changed. Why does somebody have to be killed?
yeah, that's,
That is
you're right.
the dumbest thing ever.
It's just, and there's a blind corner, it's a bad spot, it's just, but that's where the ranch was built.
Are they looking at doing the interchange of Bear Gulch, Bear Gulch?
They've been looking at it, they got all kinds of paint, and they've just been studying and studying.
Oh, so it's not a go yet, it's
Oh,
going to stay.
Other guy from the state said he'd come in when they got something
Oh,
called.
they see a whole bunch of cones and stuff there, but they must be working on it.
They're working on them branches or cones
Right there at the Bear Gulch, there's a whole bunch of cones there. and stuff.
on the interstate.
Yeah.
Oh, they're working on that bridge is falling apart again.
Oh,
They fixed it, and then that part there, and then they put up little signs that, you know, cause there's so many wrecks there in the winter, they put up solar.
flashing, yeah, flashing icy, what did they say, icy roadway or something.
Any public comment on this? Did you have something, Lily?
No, I thought there was someone that, I don't know where I was. Someone talked to me about that interchange though, because I brought it up and I don't remember. I don't remember.
It's, there's so much study in there.
Yeah.
You gotta have to cross our bridge to get on, and it's just, yeah, it's gonna be a tough
But-
goal.
They did ask the
Yeah.
commissions, like, did they have 3 different designs and they asked the commission
Yeah.
which one they prefer.
And recently, I thought it must not have been in here. I ran into somebody and I was talking.
So anyway, let's move on here. We're going to the Great West Engineering LOG.
There's
Heat ground acceleration analyst, Great West Engineering is more and more.
And what's this about?
These are the letters of transmittal. There's one for the DSSMR that we do annually. They just need a letter of transmittal from you guys signed off on an authorization to e-file to FERC. The other one is the heat ground analysis. That's the HDR came in and did the draft with you guys a couple weeks ago, I think on the 28th.
So do we need to make a motion to sign?
Yes.
So I'd entertain a motion for the Great West Engineering LOD. It's letter to Douglas.
I make that motion.
I have a second.
I second it.
Public comment? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright, motion carried down. All right, so, a little bit early, she's backing down, Granite County District Court Clerk Carol Williamson.
I have a typo on your agenda for an item that the ATVs and search and rescue expedition putting out for, surplus bid. I wrote down at 10:40, only giving Carol 10 minutes, which was a mistake. I meant to do that at 10:50, so I just wanted to let you guys know that
That's fine.
now.
She will, it's fine. Didn't you say the sheriff said again that they want that?
Yeah, he emailed me last week saying that search and rescue wants
Who
that,
is it?
and I did say I was wanting to find out who's on that board, because it's my understanding that you guys either want it out for bid or removed from the
Well, I
courthouse
guess we
parking
need to
lot.
ask the sheriff who it is that wants it and get it out.
I don't know that there's an active board, but the sheriff is over search and rescue as well.
But
So
he
yeah.
didn't act like he wanted. it. It's somebody else, but I mean,
No.
So, okay, isn't it policy? Put it up for bid, or can the sheriff say I want it and you don't?
Yeah, it should only sell if it's not needed for county business.
Yeah.
If it's needed, then. I
And you
wouldn't-
can't just
yeah.
give it to someone who maybe wants it, that's,
But if search and rescue is a county entity,
yeah,
yeah. So if it's search and rescue needing it, then it's a needed item from the
I guess the
county.
thing about it is it needs to be started and then move it down again.
Yeah. get it off of us.
Yeah.
They're gonna start putting in the smoothie rating and not where it sits. Maybe I guess we'll wait and see what Scott thinks, but if it don't, then I'm good. Don't grab it.
Get it off the parking lot.
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Fast and that's, and it's,
All right.
Come on up, Carol, go ahead.
So I get to be on the hot seat today.
Yeah, well, state your name and stuff, so everybody knows who you are.
I'm Carol Bornson, the clerk of court, and I'm here on behalf of my deputy position. It's part-time right now, and I'm requesting full-time. I want to thank you guys for considering my request. And I also want to take notice of what a great deputy Pat's been. She's been very loyal. She's been easy to work with. She's been very flexible for me, dependable.
That's a good job. yeah.
She does.
So the one thing that. This is a request for the new budget year, correct?
Yes, when
Okay.
she's going to retire in June, so it would be starting probably maybe even before.
No, we can't.
You can't. Okay, well,
The only thing is on a budget, and when you accept a budget and increasing the budget is. One of the things is unanticipated income, and you can increase it, but, and I'm sure the auditor will. Confer with me on salaries, that's real iffy, but that's real touchy, because you budgeted halftime. And, you can't just increase your budget because you wanna put her full-time, whether her
we can
duties
start
or.
July first, I can work around it, I
Yeah.
still have a few of my extra
Yeah.
hours back in 2019.
You can't use
Commissioner.
2019
I
hours.
mean, in 2019, they upped my extra hours
Oh, okay,
to cover the busyness. And so it went from like 200 to 520, and I can use 7 van,
Yes, to get you through to July.
yeah.
so in that you can do because you're the department head. You're gonna put some extra hours on her, that's your entitled.
I think I'm up to 70% right now, which is. Just shows how busy the office has been. I mean, it used to be where I'd only use half of my 200 hours
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's just hard with Zoom,
When
we
you,
have court, twice as much.
so like say, even if, I see what you're saying, but even if you hired somebody and you say, well, it's right.
If
You
we
can-
had-
I'm just
yeah,
laughing out loud, I was just thinking. If the money's there and that, it's gotta be. feasible.
It'd have to be a budget amendment for
That's
the
what I
public hearing
thought.
process. And if you wanted to go that route, you could, but if you have extra hours and that.
So how would I advertise for that?
so when is she,
She's leaving in June, I think first part of June, so.
I put in your notice how many hours would be expected in June and then it'd be full-time starting July 1.
if you have the hours that, are you gonna wanna give her? Have her work extra for the months of, For
No,
this
and
month and
Pat
next month?
might be kinda, she might be willing to stay on board for part of it.
If we can
too.
figure out for sure what day she's retiring, that would help, cause then if there's only like a 2-week thing, I'll just do it first of July, and that would.
Yeah.
Then
It's
it save a
workable.
big amend and everything, just look into that.
so like in the training. 2-week training. I mean, you can,
I don't.
might need to be, 40 hours a week training for the 2 weeks that you need training.
And trust me, I'm still learning, it's more than.
Well, I'm
That's
just,
fair, I mean, that's not, yeah.
if you've got the hours to train that person, and what, and Blaine. Check me if I'm wrong, but. It's always been, we couldn't even make line item transfers for wages. Because the wages are so set that you budget for the wages. And we couldn't put money into the wages as a line item transfer, you have to really be,
I do it by, I do it by. Public hearing process if you're gonna do it, which you are doing that for the LATCF monies already.
but see, we need to know that. I think it's best, I really do feel, instead of getting into this. This gray area for audit purposes, that if you've got the extra hours and you feel that. And looking at your proposal, doing the full time. I think, I'm. Agreeable to that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You guys, both.
I think you both feel the same thing, but it's. I just don't think that we can
do it in the
do
middle.
it in the middle of a fiscal year.
Okay, well, I can work with that.
Yeah,
I mean, the last time I.
And I
we
like
haven't
that
left
training too.
yeah.
And the
it
training.
By myself. A month or two,
I mean,
so.
if you've got your extra hours that you've kind of saved up for
Yeah.
training purposes in June, then.
Cause I know Pat's on vacation and stuff. So that.
Yeah, well, and then the vacation and sick payoff. Which you don't have to worry about that because it can come out of compensated absences, it's budgeted for that, so. Your budget doesn't take a hit,
Okay.
that's something that you might remind the clerk and recorder's office that they're, to make sure that. It's reimbursed from compensated absences.
So something like this, we make a motion on this then? Means that. Just to cover this, so she can actually hire.
Have it on
somebody?
for decision today.
Yeah.
Yep, you can.
I'm just thinking this way, if you can get somebody hired here, whatever, then it's.
Did it advertise?
Yeah, or
the whole
advertise,
time?
yeah.
If she has the hours already, I don't think you need to mention that, you just say. Full-time starting July 1,
So,
2023.
yeah. I make a motion, the half-time deputy in the clerk and recorder's office be full-time. Not clerk and recorder's office. In district court.
I'm gonna-
I make a motion that the half-time position in the office of the clerk of the district court be made a full-time position. July 1 for the new fiscal year.
Does it have to say deputy?
Oh, I make a motion that the deputy in the office of the clerk of district court be made a full-time position. July 1, the next fiscal year.
Nice, sorry.
Public comment. We have none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's it. Oh, sorry, Blaine.
I was just gonna say then, yeah, new job description. Is.
So like the one thing that that, for her vacations and
She
payoff.
in there.
It's, your fund is reimbursing me with compensated absence. Yeah,
Well,
But.
so it should be good.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
do it.
yeah. So is she gonna be gone the full month of June or?
I don't know. I know she planning on using that for vacation. Oh,
Kind of, well, I guess you can't ask people, well, it'd be kind of nice a couple days here and there just to help cover until we can find something, but you can't ask them that.
we'll see. She's been great to work with, so it's Susie. Like
Yeah.
that person, great
Yeah.
personnel up there on the birds board.
Now, there's a
It's
debate
the
between the
place-
second or third floor.
I think,
I used to call it third floor, so I was on the second floor, so now it's on.
I say great personnel on all three
Yeah.
floors.
How about the basement?
Yeah, three
That's
floors,
exactly
yeah.
where we're in.
3, 4, we got that one way up.
But no one's up there working. when we-
It's lower level, first, second.
And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
You want that back?
You
That's
don't
our
need it.
copy. I'll put it in our. Thing
And,
about-
There's some few minutes I have, but we'll go into this, putting ATV four-wheeler from sheriff's office and search and rescue expedition out for surplus to be a discussion decision. I think, my personal opinion, I guess they keep saying they want it, but it hasn't moved for so long, I think it needs to be put up and get rid of it. Don't run one, why would we have? to?
Yeah.
When you get upset, but it's just, look at the snow still in front of us, and that's where it's at. Maybe there wasn't.
They're talking ATV four-wheeler.
They got, that sheriff has to go up
Oh, an
for,
expedition. Oh, an expedition. Oh,
there's
okay.
2 things that he's gonna put up. Then he told Billy that they want it, well, I'm done with. It don't run,
Talk about once the expedition.
Search and rescue.
So what are you saying, Blaine, that he doesn't want it up?
The statute is if it's not needed for county purposes, it could be put out for public sale. I guess if you guys don't feel it's needed for county purposes, then. I don't know if you wanna have.
Well, then why isn't it?
We tried to get somebody to take it. Nobody wants it.
wanna put it out for bid, yeah, we tried to get them to move it now, but we don't even know who's on the thing that wants it, that's what I keep asking, who wants it? He said, does Scott want it? Why don't we just say he wants it, then it'll be a little bit, and get the thing moved down out of here, cause we're gonna be doing.
But he wants to do what? Search and rescue?
I mean, I don't know how much money you're gonna have to put into it, he said it didn't run. I don't know, we're gonna pay a bunch of money, have somebody come look at it to get it to run,
So when did the ATV come into play?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago.
If it's, they can't find parts for it. It's a good one, it's runs now, but you can't get no parts when they break down, so it's outdated.
So what does he want? One of those side-by-side things now?
I think they have one,
Yeah, I think they already have one.
they have one.
Your motion could be that, put the four-wheeler up for public bid and the expedition if you know, if the sheriff is not needed. And that,
You see, we put it in once before and then called up, we had to take it out. And I just,
Cause there were people interested in it too.
yes, I had 2 people call, and now it's a.
yeah, I just wouldn't put it in the paper again until you pull it out again, so.
Well, I guess if there's, for discussion purposes, if the sheriff reads the agenda, then I would think that he would be coming in and saying why he feels it shouldn't be up for.
Should we
Public
call him
bid.
and find out so we can get this thing took care of once and for all, cause it's been on for over a year.
Yeah,
And I know it's gotta be moved here pretty quick, and then
we can't keep putting it off and off and off.
just cause one person wants it, but the one person wants it, there's only, I mean, nobody started the road. I know there's legal ways to do it, it's just, like,
But yours, the commission's decision if it's not needed for county business, you guys are the ones that make that call.
are you calling?
I'm texting him. That's usually the fastest way to get a hold of him.
So, yeah, that's why I didn't come on. Can we go off a little bit? Talk about a personal thing?
Private personnel matter? Yeah, you can, it's your call them. I maybe text them and tell them next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll coordinate with him.
And put him on next Tuesday. He's the kind of put me to bed.
Yeah. So,
So I'm all for selling the ATV and the. Expedition.
I am too.
you have. As a side note, in the Title III monies, there's over 400,000. If they need a vehicle for search and rescue, my recommendation would be. To purchase a new vehicle that's in good shape, that they can.
That's what I think too, if we have that money. Maybe we could. Get some people and see if they're interested. I don't even know who's on it anymore. Search and rescue.
Nobody does.
Maybe somebody could take charge of it. You know,
They usually just use, he calls them certain people, I can't know these King Kong, them guys. that
It's
just
kind of call us.
know the country that he don't, I don't know that. What's his name used to be on the search and rescue,
let's put it on the agenda and see if we can get some interest and some people. They wanna really get something going. I mean, why have it?
Another thing about this Title III money, it's use it or lose it.
There
Yeah,
is
by
one, there's
2026.
old and new. The new one, we have to use it or lose it by 26.
Yeah.
The
But
old
this one has. Yeah. it's
Yeah, the
several-
new one has lots of money.
Yeah,
The old one is, I think there's like $70,000 in it.
oh, okay. So maybe not, but it's sufficient for,
Yeah.
yeah,
To get it,
yeah.
and what, did you say something that they didn't have to advertise anymore? They can, because it used to have to go in the paper for so many. Saying
Well,
that we're
it's-
gonna spend this amount of money.
It's supposed to be, should be. Put in the budget, and then that takes care of that notice, so it could be in for your new fiscal year budget, you have a part of that, then.
So,
take care of it.
Sorry,
I
I was just gonna explain the budget, there, the line item has got the amount in it. There isn't, it's not detail what's gonna be spent on. So I'm assuming that maybe that is why it goes in the paper saying, okay, we've got this line item for this amount of money, we're gonna spend it on this.
Yeah, and I was just saying, yeah, if you don't have the line item, you either put it in the paper or just the next
And
budget.
it's just, it's in there, it's.
Yeah.
You know, it's in there.
Can a person like on that being, could it be half sheriff, half search and rescue?
No,
And
that's the.
this has to be.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, the sheriff,
Federal law.
the sheriff goes on it anyway, so why can't they have a rig under the sheriff's office?
Well, he's got it. Technically speaking, if it's for search and rescue, it's for search and rescue, but if he,
I understand, I
It's
guess we're
federal-
thinking it'd be.
federal law, thank you.
Cause he's gonna, but if he specifies one deputy for search and rescue, it still don't matter, you can't get a rig like together with the sheriff and the search.
No, I wouldn't do that.
So we can put it on the agenda for search and rescue and then see if we can get some interest going and.
I-
And in the meantime, I'll make a motion to sell the ATV and the Expedition.
I'll second it.
Any public comment? Is none all in favor? Aye.
Alright,
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we better wait on this one, huh? This or that. Matt Mickey subdivision, she probably coming down and see Linda.
Yeah, Linda's coming down. I'll have to look, 'cause I thought Sarah was saying 400,000 of the money that's gonna be lost, but yeah, I need to,
Yeah.
there is old and new, yeah.
Okay, so looking at the cash report.
Also says we're supposed to get rack approval, well, every time we email the rack, they don't get back to us, so you take that as implied consent, they're not.
Right.
They don't have an opinion.
Push public park. So they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like Title III old, there's 77,000. And that is discretionary and we can spend it and we don't lose it.
We need more.
Title III new is 448.
That's what's lost in the 2026.
And then, yeah, we have till 26.
But and the law is expended or plan, or, what's the?
Unappropriated.
Appropriated,
So the thing is, you can only spend it on,
search and rescue. There's other
things too, I think.
yeah. I
Fire
think-
service and stuff, I think can be like the,
they have a little pamphlet out on it. Here's a fax deal. You want me to email or text it to you?
okay,
I'll email it to you.
can do whatever you want, text it or email me.
The sheriff should be out of his meeting around 1. So maybe he'll stop on first.
Just emailed you.
Yes, sir.
Text it to you. Well. You have an Android phone. I don't know if the text will go through.
Hey Blaine, if you were to get an iWatch, you, me and Claudette could use them as walkie talkie.
Texted it to me.
Well, through. I tried to give my wife one for Christmas and she didn't want one.
Really? Mine's at home today. I was very excited when I found out it could be used as a walkie talkie.
Just like saying walkie-talkie waves, is that what?
There's,
what-
yeah, I don't know, there's like a walkie talkie with other iPhone
What's-
watches that'll pick them up.
What's the range?
I have no idea, I haven't tested it. But that's the only person in here I know.
We'll have to have it sent her like a couple miles away and see if we can talk to her.
All of my family are Android users, so they're not helpful.
So I remember Sarah was wondering if you can maintain the vehicles and stuff that,
That could be appropriate money to maintain
or
vehicles.
what he's already purchased.
Yeah, so we. Cause it's 400,000 is what's lost if we don't have it used or appropriated by 2026.
So if there was interest, you could also. We could pay expenses of training personnel out of it too, for search and rescue.
Yes. We purchased the drone out of that, the
Protective equipment,
side by side
yeah,
Trailer.
trailer.
so let's
You could get
spend
a new
that
vehicle.
448.
Hmm?
448,000 we have to spend before 26.
I can help you with that.
So like you say, get anybody interested in search and rescue,
Yeah.
get them trained,
Yeah,
and we
we
can
do
take it
great.
all out of Title III,
Training can come on there.
training,
Whatever.
yeah, let's spend it. We're sitting on it. Right?
over there making it rain.
Well, I keep telling the sheriff you got that money, so he knows about it too.
Yeah.
Well, why would you wanna get something that's feasible and dependable? That's probably, that's.
So like we could keep the 77,000. Cause we can keep that forever, but to spend the 448
Yeah.
on search
So-
and rescue stuff.
Yeah, even if you appropriate this to do the expenditure to actually
And
buy
you can-
something later on.
You can give it, can't you give it to fire services? I think you
Sure.
can. I think we have in the past,
Give it what?
give it to fire services.
Salary or wages of emergency response personnel deployed during emergency response to the forest.
Can that come to us?
Um,
Give it to us, cause we're kind of.
Yeah.
replacement of equipment, material, or supplies expended, damage, or destroyed during emergency response. Repair equipment damaged, maintenance of vehicles, equipment, and facilities. Purchase of capital equipment such as purchase of fire engine, search and rescue, snowmobile, other emergency response equipment. Could go to expensive training personnel to respond to emergencies on national forest. Expensive equipment and supplies to be kept on hand for response to emergencies on national forest. Expensive non-disposable personal protective equipment. Purchase of equipment for 911 emergency systems.
All right, well, it's 11 o'clock, we're gonna go ahead, Linda's coming down, you said?
Yes, I believe so.
Well,
Wait, now, Linda.
I'm pretty sure I know what she's gonna say.
No.
I'm sure I don't see anything wrong. with it.
That's what she said in the planning board
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
I'm feeling proud.
So that money that you were talking about, do we have to expend that by a certain time?
2026.
Okay.
The 400,000, the
the
70,000.
77 is on the old. We don't lose it,
Oh,
So
okay,
it's
so we
there.
can hold that
Yeah.
75, okay.
but the Title III new has to be spent by 26.
Been
And we-
appropriated, so the plan gets.
And we've had that for a long time.
I would just,
Haven't.
I know that in the last couple of weeks, Scott's had several search and rescues. And one of them, they banged up their equipment pretty well,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I would just.
Yeah.
Remember that he's gonna have,
So now that we know that we don't have to advertise because it is appropriated. I mean, the whole amount.
Yeah, but what we've been doing is just through the
Budget.
budget.
yeah, the side by side.
So if it's in the budget, if not, then we can put it in the
It,
pay.
it is in the budget.
Yeah.
It is budgeted.
Yeah. And rack.
For all those things that it says.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we just need to find out if we can appropriate it for fire services and stuff.
But it says, fire engines, but it's supposed to be, for the national forest.
Well, and I'm thinking, I think we've given it in the past to. Like Georgetown Fire Service.
You got
What are you talking about?
Title III
Budget
funds.
monies.
Title III, I've never heard of it.
I don't remember ever.
Yeah, I
been
do.
here, so.
I remember we used to have to advertise for it. This has been,
I'll send you tax information on
That's through DNRC
pardon me,
or the.
It is you, all right, thank you. Bye.
it's,
She's
how do you
coming.
explain it? It's SRS money. Forest Service and it's Title III. It's in your titles.
it doesn't come through the DNRC though, does it?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's, we got it. It's us. It's, we've gotten it.
Never gotten it before. No, vicious rumor.
I probably go find something. Maybe you guys didn't get it, but I know. Maybe we advertise for it.
I put in annually for a DNRC grant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is different.
No, this is Title III money that the counties get,
I see.
that we're trying to spend.
Welcome, Linda.
All right, we're gonna go into the Mac Mickey subdivision, minor subdivision. Linda, what's your?
Okay, sorry. So this one is down on the Gold Coin Road. By where their big 90-acre parcel is. They're splitting off 10 acres. They've already proposed covenants that cover ag. They cover signage. They've gotten their road permit from you guys to put in the driveway. They've gotten a septic permit from Chad. To have, that's existing. There's a county road there, electric there. This is nothing to be put in on this one. The planning board recommended approval. Would you entertain one?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You want to do it? It's your turn.
I'll make a motion to approve the Mac Mickey subdivision. Minor subdivision.
I second it. With the conditions, right? With the conditions.
Public comment? Against none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Motion carried back.
All right.
That was great.
That's the word.
Wait, what is that? All righty.
All that other weed control plan, we just have to get that too.
Yeah, to Dan, not Dan.
Ben.
Ben.
The new Dan.
The new
And
Dan.
then the survey goes to.
Hands.
Yep.
Sounds like you got her covered.
Yep.
No, thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks.
I got the off the hand, I know what the next one.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
All right, go ahead into the Rising Sun versus Grant County discussion decision.
Talk to. Might need a
Right.
chair up here.
Oh, yeah.
Got Fred Workland, Kirk Under here with the Georgetown Lake Fire
Drag
Department.
a chair up there.
So give a little history here. It's been a long history. Rising Sun subdivision, Jack McLeod did not put in their fire suppression system correct. It freezes up. The county filed lawsuit after Mr. McLeod said several times they would get it fixed or corrected. I didn't do that. The county actually filed suit. Basically sooner than we said we were, just because he said he was gonna fix it. We just wanted to make sure we did not miss statute of limitations. So we filed the lawsuit earlier on there. But didn't have him served till he didn't fix it. And then litigation went on. The county obtained summary judgment. That went to the Montana Supreme Court, was reversed. We went to then a trial, a bench trial before Judge Dayton. The county received a judgment for over $100,000 against Rising Sun, Mr. McLeod. He's appealed that to the Montana Supreme Court. We'd be looking at mediation coming up here and filing briefs. Thought was potentially a way to try to settle this prior to going to mediation even. Do you want to talk about that, Linda?
Yeah, so I had talked about, well, I talked to Blaine about, if this, about potentially taking the parcel. So the parcel that the little pond thing sits on, that essentially is his parkland. It was his parkland that he set aside at the time of the subdivision. But that the prices up there are so expensive that this would be a nice parcel if we could obtain it. And my thoughts were this would allow the fire department to potentially locate a fire building, what do you call that? On that parcel, which is down on the south side of the lake. They don't know that they really want to do that, but I still think that there's value to having the property, even if all they did was, put cisterns in there. Use it to do some kind of a water source.
it can't really, this is the problems with it, it can't really be divided. Cause it was their parkland and it doesn't meet the zoning regulations. So if we got it, we'd either have to sell it whole. And then. There's questions as to whether we should do that because of. You know, the parkland status that it currently has, although other parklands have not gone and been sold and been built on. But that and then, you know, or we retain it and it's used by the fire department or something. So if not, then that wouldn't work as mediation settlement and we'd have to go back and figure something else out.
The thought is, I mean, we have the judgment on, but judgment to cash is not a simple process. I mean, potentially we could get out of it, but that'd be ways down the line. So just thinking of ideas of potential ways to settle this prior to mediation. But if it doesn't work out, doesn't work out. But just to have a discussion about it and think about it.
When she is shaking her head, you don't want.
Well, that's a tremor I have.
It's when I speak.
Usually me.
I know I've witnessed. Really, in short. We've got 3 fire stations in our service area now. And we have no need for another. That's not a dead zone that requires even consideration. Water supply is always an important thing. And a good stable supply winter proof. I don't know the legal things. You know, it seems like we've got a lot of time investing. What's another year? That's where I'm at. I'd rather a win. And be done with this. I thought we had that under our belt. With the court here. So I don't know, I'd entertain any other thoughts. Go for it.
How did the parkland come into play? I don't
When the
understand.
subdivision was done,
Well, I know that, I know how it came into play, but why are we discussing parkland right now
Well, that was
as a
my,
settlement?
that was, I'd say that's my idea coming out of, on a way to get to some cash there. Even if a part was divided off, you'd still have ground there that for, I mean, let's say that whole area is a parkland, in my opinion. I mean, you got, you're right next to the, but I do know you're talking about that, yeah, you're supposed to have dedicated land there. Would have some, if you sold off an acre there, it'd still have 1/3 of an acre left for area there for the.
What's an acre of ground worth there?
Realistically?
Yeah.
That's prime
Yeah.
land right there.
Half-acre lots gotta be worth 40,000, 50,000.
I would think 60 minimum for an acre, even if part of it's split.
What amazes me is that this guy has dedicated parkland to his subdivision. And now he's bartering that parkland away to us. That's not part of the deal.
He though, in his defense, he didn't wasn't coming up with that idea.
Oh,
That was my just throwing out, that was just me throwing out ideas. So,
Yeah, I thought it was resolved.
I did too.
Yeah,
too.
we did. We did it.
I have a question, so. Yes, we gotta have mediation, but is there concern that? When we go to the Supreme Court. For the appeal, if we go there, that we're gonna lose that? appeal?
no, that's not the concern. But getting that judgment to cash is gonna be some work. He's probably got everything in trust and everything else, so there's a way to get through it all, but maybe it's not as easy as we think, you would think.
So by that, do you mean it might take several years
Yeah, I mean, the way he's fought everything.
to get the cash?
Yeah,
So to me, there's. The alternative is that we're talking about selling a piece of land. Let's say an acre. And can you realize something from that anywhere we're close to that judgment? In value that allows us to put water there. If we sold it for 60 grand, I think the estimate's 130, right?
is that, I think the judgment's 103,000, but, that's with Bob Church's 12, but it's right up there in the 100,000 range.
So the
Yeah,
property doesn't produce, even if you could sell it like quickly. And maybe that property will take 5 or 10 years to sell. Those have been slow moving properties in that rising sun. So I'm kind of opposed to the idea.
Okay, question, the judgment against them is to fix something, did they get it fixed?
well, it's the judgment's a monetary judgment. too,
Okay.
But, so then the county was gonna have to take that and fix it. The other issue we're dealing with here is an apathetic, there's no set homeowners association. Are they gonna maintain it?
Okay, so you're saying
They
the
have no.
judgment against him, that he's supposed to fix it, right?
No, it's a money judgment.
Okay,
It's not. a
then we would have
performance.
to take that money and fix
Yeah.
it,
You're not gonna touch it, 60 grand.
to fix it.
Correct.
It's-
Because it's never was done right. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd have to start right from the beginning.
Unless there's 2 half-acre, but would that be reasonable then?
I mean, our goal is to have water there. To serve rising sun. That's that's initially why the pond was put there. And it's just not functional, so it needs to be for the good of rising sun and for the good of the fire department in responding. There has to be water.
A fire hall in the future, you don't ever see the need for that, and then.
No, really,
Still gonna have to dig it out and fix it without even to put a fire hall there, if you use water, they're still gonna have to redo it.
exactly. If we wanted water there, we still have to rebuild it. And really, fire departments, ours in particular, we've positioned our fire stations within 5 road miles of the mass of the houses. Because those 5 road miles allow those property owners to have a better insurance rate. You can live beyond that in our district, but you don't get great insurance. So we've already measured that. That zone is covered by 2 fire stations as it is. You know, we don't need a station there. And really, in this day and time, we're having a hard time manning 3 stations as it is. Volunteerism is off, we know that.
Is there any benefit to the fire department owning the property and slowly just developing water? Like those linked cisterns that you guys had talked about for potentially Lakeside? As COVID,
There's-
the years.
Certainly an option, but I don't know that we need to be in the construction business. The plan for the development was they would be furnishing us a captive water source. That was agreed upon 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
We sat right here and said if we wouldn't make it work.
and we just bumped along and we still have nothing. And now we're receiving a piece of parkland. Doesn't make sense.
It's gonna end up costing more money to the fire mother, even if you have to go get grant, because we do everything that's Stella chose, whatever, it's still gonna be $100,000.
That's all true. Yeah. And a part of that goal is had that subdivision put in the pond. The covenant required maintenance and the water fill system. So suddenly there's those layers. We can end up with a lot. But now we're the owners of the water supply. We prefer the property owners in that area.
I like we're paying money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I look at it, and I don't think it's right.
Well,
should have to.
I guess with that caveat is, yeah. This is a sure thing versus later, that's all I'm saying. We say we have a judgment, but that doesn't always equate to cash.
And I was gonna just
Yeah.
include that,
Yeah,
you know, I'm not waiting for the check. I'm just wishing that he'd say, you guys win, and he brings in somebody and they dig it and place it properly, that's all. What we've wanted hasn't changed.
And then the next thing is that, you know, if nothing happens there, then well, who's the next guy to come along? That's what I'm looking at, is it showing, you know, just take it to court, don't have to do this shit.
There you go. So true.
That's what bothers me, and he just keeps getting away. He sits right in here and tells he's fixing it, but yet that don't stand in court. They should have just said, no, you said you're going to, you should have done it.
Correct. Correct. Fix it or settle it.
well, legally speaking, specific performance wasn't gonna be allowed and they're looking at, you're looking at contract damages.
So even if we get to the end of all his appeals to. Don't know when that'll happen ever, but even if we get there, we're still gonna get money and we have to fix it.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, well,
ultimately what's gonna happen. He doesn't. get
we're
the right
working
to
toward-
fix it
unless the county agreed to that,
anyway.
but do we want, I mean, would the county want to?
Only with oversight from Great West
Yeah.
Engineering.
But we entered into another agreement and that agreement's gonna have to be litigated and you're back. Same cycle
It's
again.
probably gonna cost more to look it over and get it all reset than what we'll ever get. We're gonna be happy to find money to.
All true.
Cause you can't use their specs, I think, because obviously it didn't work and they never did. Then we have to redo it. Whole thing, and you got engineering, plus and building, holy shit. Whole time, right?
Well, and are you guys looking to have the fire pond itself rebuilt or cisterns? I thought we had kind of moved to cisterns.
The underground tanks would, but Bob Church was of the opinion that, he had. Thought either one would fine, improving the pond or the underground tanks. But you think there'd be less maintenance on the underground tanks?
Right.
Kind of cheaper. If we do it, cause that damn. It's not.
So I think ponds demand maintenance. There's airborne waste and so forth. Kids climbing over the fence or throwing stuff in there, there's a liability. You know, if we could erase this time frame and go back, whatever, 12 years or so. They should have stuck with the system. And yes, if we look at our documents, there was a point where Jack McLeod suggested 20,000 gallons underground. Should have been grabbed at that time.
Didn't he back out of that or was he?
Probably,
Yeah.
well.
Didn't he say that Linda, that he backed out of the system?
I think he just kept saying stuff and backed out of everything he said.
He has.
He's never completed one thing besides taking the only thing that he stuck to was taking the court. That's the only thing I
Well,
brought out.
we had to take him to court, but he forced
You
it.
know what I mean?
Forced
Well, he
their
said
hand,
right
yeah.
here
And I wanna clarify something I said earlier, that I said we had to bring the lawsuit before we said we were gonna, we didn't say. He made the commitment that he was gonna do something, the county was like, okay, that's fine. But then we filed the lawsuit because as a backup, we would have been out with the statute of limitations if we would have waited. So county did what was right there in filing the lawsuit.
So what's the go ahead deal then? What are we gonna do here? I mean, keep it.
Could go forward with mediation and for the go to the Supreme Court and file the briefs and go for
I
that
think-
one.
My personal opinion being on this, I think we need to. I mean, if we don't, it's just kind of like. It's up to you guys too. It's not just me. It's this mediation we've been in and we've gone through it and I thought it was pretty much over. You know.
Yeah. So
No, I
keeps
agree.
going, but.
I agree with you.
Okay.
So I'd entertain a motion to move on. I'll make a motion to move on with this, mediation to move on, you know.
Who wants to attend mediations?
I will.
Okay.
No second.
Just because I'm going on mediation.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm told again, I
Okay.
guess this is, yeah, this, I just don't think, if we don't, like, this brings a big slap in the face. You
It sets a
guys-
new standard.
Mhm.
And all you have to do is appeal.
Yeah, we feel that way if we don't. So. Any public comment? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey,
Thanks. All right, I'll look up for.
few permits that have come in. That you guys can check on.
Okay,
Thanks, Linda.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep fighting a good fight. Yeah.
I remember, but on that Title III, we gave money to the fire departments for some kind of research on protecting homes in the forest.
That's when they did that, study and you got paper going out and looking
Yeah.
at stuff.
Yeah.
You got so
Yeah.
much for each.
Yes.
That
Yes,
was Title III, I
Yes.
thought that was that, Cause the DNRC was the one pushing on that.
we paid, I'm sure if we looked it up, we did Title III.
Okay.
Because we gave it to the fire departments.
Cause these guys did more than the ones down below.
Yeah.
Whenever we got-
Yeah.
We gotta
Yeah.
get, you need to go get this stuff done, to get paid for evaluating houses that might.
And we advertised it. And
Yeah.
each department got so much money for all the, whatever they
Cause the
inspected or.
the DNRC
Yeah.
paid so much and then there was something, not to buy.
What- One thing I was thinking of is tying it to those cisterns. You got one cistern up there that's tied for national forests.
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it in
But
the forest?
the second cistern would have to be for the paid
Homeowners.
for by the different funds.
Well, if you
Good
can,
idea.
Maybe she brought that up to them, but they're just not liking that idea. And we still have so.
so the underground
Still an
thing that
option.
he supposedly was supposed to build, he built but did it wrong. Is that?
Yeah, it was
this
only,
is-
it was supposed to be 30,000, with amendments, it was 30,000 gallons, right now it has like 12,000 gallons. Of usable water, and that goes down in the winter, because it freezes, it freezes up, so in the winter, it's basically 0 gallons usable water, because it
And is that,
freezes the
They had the
bottom.
mediation that we went to at one time, is when they took them pictures, well, it's a reflection, they said, well, look at there, and it's a reflection, it's not even a.
is this on sitting on the parkland?
Yes, the common area. But. We can. Yeah. We'll move forward.
I think we need to, like, don't, if we don't, I just. Did you hear from Catherine?
Oh, she said she might be a few minutes late.
Fabulous.
So what's this about? This
Trying to
animal.
get her, we do a contract with us, so we can get her.
There's no monetary thing in it, is there?
No, that she could shoot bills or whatever. It's basically just
No,
put
I
a
mean, for
contract.
us to give her money
No.
in support of,
There's also a separate draft lease if you're gonna lease a ambulance to her, but
Or any equipment, yeah.
yeah. Remember you
I
did
didn't think
notice in the paper and then no one put in
I
proposal?
guess they could want to make sure and get something, so we kind of, a few years or something, that we kind of.
Yeah.
Cause we have nothing, I mean, we need to do just a handshake, thanks.
Yeah. Which is, I guess, better than nothing, but having something in writing was the goal.
Paper trail. Hey,
But whether you guys wanna lease an ambulance or not, that's totally up to you guys.
I think there was
This
some.
won't affect the QRU or whatever.
No.
You'd have one from Drummond you could trade in, plus there's another one up here, right?
I think there's 3 up here, isn't there?
Yeah, two is bad.
Yeah.
Guess it'd be which one would you let her have, or at least to her?
Well, I don't think if we're gonna lease space, it isn't gonna be for $1 a year,
No, that's not space, that's for an ambulance.
And
space to house and
She doesn't want the space,
may lease to contractors, space to house. Ambulances and other vehicles necessary.
But that, you're not agreeing to that, it said it'd be by separate agreement.
Oh, okay, whereas,
So the other agreement is with it.
the whereases, the whereas.
Cause she did not wanna have nothing up here, she wants to be centered right there, cause she's halfway,
Where's that?
The
right outside all.
agreement talks about your potentially could contractor space, but she's not asking for that, just a potential.
so she'd lease one of ours and she put it down there.
Keep it right with where her stuff is, right there in the hall. I mean, at least maybe it'd be used and took care of, right now they're full of cobwebs.
And that's not for 2 crews.
Care of.
It's it's still 1 crew, but just a backup ambulance.
Well, I think she said she tried to have two crews there, I'm not sure, but yeah, I think sometimes they have an ambulance down, but maybe she could have 3
Yeah.
crews, I don't know.
Why don't?
And I think there's other equipment she wanted to talk about, but I don't know.
Well, I know when she broke down.
You needed, and at that time I was like, it was an emergency, so you guys allowed it, but let's get something in
I
writing.
think that
so
way
we
we
don't
don't have to
have
go
to-
through the whole channel, you know, and get a hold and just say, yeah, we'll get it, because it's about saving lives, that's not the, but. None of the ambulances you look at them, I don't even, you look at stuff in there and it's outdated now, what are we doing about that? What kind of liability is that on?
Well, the Phillipsburg one's not even functioning, but the Drummond should be,
Is this saying her first then?
what's out?
Is this saying? Okay, say we've got the Drummond ambulance that wanna stay in effect. And the sheriff's office not calling them because they're tired of not responding, blah, 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 to say this, that. Is this contract saying that she's going to be called first?
It says, what the language in there right now, it says Eagle's the exclusive. But there'll be agreement between Eagle and Drummond on how they handle things.
They just want.
So that can be worked out between them.
So, and they can just.
I'll show you that language.
Yeah, cause I.
So she's okay with the quick response unit?
I don't know.
Well, I don't think that's for her to decide.
No, I just wondered.
Oh,
I
okay.
think she listened in last week because she emailed me right after the meeting. I didn't see her name, but she might have called into the Zoom. Don't know.
What did she email you?
She emailed me about equipment and talking to you guys about that right after your meeting last week. So I'm assuming that she was listening to your meeting,
He emailed you.
But I actually think Frank and her.
that she was interested in some of the equipment and stuff and to get on your
I actually think
agenda.
Frank and her have been talking. They had a meeting or get.
You know, I think we had some constructive thing going on when we had that meeting here today. I mean, we had 3 parties that weren't even talking to each other. They were just,
Assuming that one.
yeah. And there was the comment made, well, I didn't call because I'm tired of calling. You can't do that. Whether it's,
It'd be nice if they would have responded though when they did call just to let them know that they couldn't, and then this wouldn't have been such a big. Make it, you can, if you can't, don't, you know, because that was very honest, what, which thing, without saving lives, not about.
and what do you think in general? Is this something that other counties do with private enterprise? Businesses?
Well, like the county doesn't do it with like life flights, I mean, they're just, it's there's no guarantees with them, but the thought was if we were gonna give up. Yeah, not pursue forward and continue on with the Phillipsburg one, so forth, that have something writing, so you have some guarantees there,
I
but.
think it's to cover us.
Yeah, it's
You know, if we could get her to breathe for so many years. Yes. Cause right now, it's just day by day, because we don't have.
all this agreement does is continue on what you're, yeah.
What we're doing right now.
Trying to find that exclusive language. Yeah, bottom of page 2. Bottom of page 2. That could be tweaked, it's just a.
So the non-medical transport, is that? When they transport someone from the hospital to another hospital
Yeah.
or something? Which we couldn't really say they can or can't, because it's a hospital district that would have to make the agreement with them.
Well, it's been a while since I looked at that language. Yeah, shall provide non-medical transport if mutually agreed upon in writing with the county. Or the hospital district, yeah, the hospital district work that out with them. Yeah. What's that actually?
Okay, should that even be in there with? You'd have to do that with the hospital, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we can't really. Okay, you can provide non-medical transport, how?
It would be-
Granite County's saying
yeah.
this because,
you wouldn't be doing it for us unless we had a contract.
right,
So,
right, so it shouldn't even be in there.
I think so, just to spell it out, so it's clear that, it won't be done unless there's a separate contract.
Would that be,
Well, non-medical, why would they do non-medical, non-emergency maybe?
Have to look at the definition, yeah, it's meaning a non-emergency transport.
Yeah, it should be non-emergency. I mean, 'cause if you do a transfer, it's medical. Right,
Yeah, you're right, it probably should say non-emergency there, I guess it depends on. There's,
well, in Granite County wouldn't have any reason because the hospital is not under our umbrella, they're their own district. So we can't put it in there that, okay, you can go ahead and haul for that hospital if you want.
okay, so it does say shall furnish all emergency
morning.
and non-emergency medical.
How are you?
Oh, I'm here.
How's it going?
Come on up.
Sorry,
You're fine, just right on time.
ish. It's been.
All right, this is to discuss a leasing county equipment potential contract with Eagle Ambulance and services for Granite County. You can see this.
Yes, yes.
Any questions or?
Well, I have sent it to. My business attorney, just because I don't speak legalese very well. So I mean, from what I know, it looks fine to me, but. To be honest with you, I just kind of lost interest after half of each one.
Yeah. One of the things we were just talking about is, whether you, you're doing transports for like the hospital here,
Mhm.
not like just non-emergency transports already? Okay, so the contract's broad enough to cover that, it doesn't, right now, it doesn't cover, non-medical transports, so there'd be a contract, I don't see, you don't do non-medical transports in any event.
No. Yeah, no, we wouldn't do. Non-medical.
I think Blanche's point of view was that potentially should be the hospital
Well,
district
yeah.
contracts with you on.
Not us deciding whether or not you could do it or not. Or whether or not you would do it or not, because we wouldn't have any non-medical or non-emergency. The county per se.
Yeah.
Right, right.
But it's not like we're paying for it though anyway, she gets paid for by an individual, right?
Yeah, well, the only way the county would actually have a non-emergent transport is if somebody was in custody. But 9 times out of 10, they release them from custody so that their insurance or whatever pays the bills.
Yeah.
Which, for example, that's what happened last week. There was somebody that was brought from the jail to the hospital. And once they found out that he had to go to Missoula, they then released him from custody so that Medicaid would foot the bill. Otherwise, if he's in custody, then Granite County would have
Yeah.
to foot the bill.
We have insurance there, but it's a $10,000 deductible. But if it's someone on a homicide and they're needing to go down there, then likely, yeah, they need to have a deputy riding in the back there.
Yeah, so, but the only way I can see that the county would have would be is if it was somebody that was
Yeah.
in custody type thing.
And you,
So my question is, sorry, do you feel that Granite County might be with this contract infringing on your right to private enterprise? I just don't know, I'm not understanding. I know we want you here,
Correct.
I know. Why would we have to sign a contract for you to stay here?
Well, that was my question too. I don't feel that I would, I mean, we haven't had one thus far. I'm not in any way gonna, oh, we don't have a contract, I'm out here, you know?
See, that's where I just don't get it, I honestly don't get this.
I think to me, it was just basically putting in writing what's already being done, but if it, yeah, may not be needed. The county doesn't contract with Life Flight or anything.
Right.
And so, also the thought was though, if you were giving it, not gonna go forward with Phillipsburg, that you basically have some assurances there, but if you're not feeling like you need the written assurances, you're fine there too. This also, the lease kind of tags along with this service as well, but the lease could be standalone as well for an ambulance vehicle.
Do you see what I mean?
I agree with you, because I mean, I've provided 911 service to Jefferson County for over 20 years with just, you know, hey, we're here, call us.
Yeah.
Until you don't want us anymore, you know, type thing.
Well, it wouldn't be so that we don't want you.
No, I know, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that I don't feel in order for us to be here, that I would have to have something in writing from you guys.
For you to be here.
Correct,
Not to do your job.
correct.
The contract does create liabilities to the county in the standpoint that then you guys have duties to, you know, ask for some reporting and follow up with that, and if you don't, then potentially you have liability.
I don't
But-
feel that's any of our
Yeah.
business because he's private enterprise.
And
I'm
that's-
sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
mean to
it's,
interrupt.
I fully.
Yeah.
Just give you guys the floor there
Yeah.
because it's your guys.
Yeah.
What you guys want. We don't go to Lifeline and say you can't come to Granite County unless we have a contract with
Yeah.
you.
Well, and this, I mean, was mentioned for whose protection?
Well, it basically puts in writing what the existing deal is. If you want assurances, like for her to be here 5 years or whatever, then you can ask for it, but if you're already saying you're gonna be here and that's maybe not needed.
Well, that's cool, then that's pretty simple, then we don't need that. Then we can go move right into the ambulance. Are you interested in leasing an ambulance? I got another big headache. Or what are you looking for?
Mr. Released from Custody Man destroyed my cot last week. So I most definitely am in need of a cot.
What kind of cop? We have one?
Yeah, and it's a power cot, which is really kind of nice. But I'm down a cot, like we could not, when we got him, like we almost couldn't get it out of the ambulance when we got to Missoula. And then after we got him transferred over in the room, that was a fight. I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin for it. We actually couldn't get the cot to lower it down to put it into the ambulance.
Well, do we have a cop down here in this Phillipsburg one, is it?
Oh, yeah.
But
But would we need that cot for the QRU or would
They got one and they got two of the other.
have two cots?
Each ambulance is legally required to have a cot. If it's
Well,
licensed.
don't you need one as a, ambulance as a backup though, in case one of you didn't, or is that not?
What do you mean?
Like one breaks down, you had one as a backup, or is that not?
Well, I do, I have
Yeah.
but I have two ambulances, but I only have one functioning cot.
Okay, so that, the cot's the bigger issue. One thing on that, if he doesn't pay for it, yeah, we can charge him and get it as restitution.
But for, yeah.
But yeah,
You go down and just take one out of this ambulance and if you, you're fine.
But then, and the other thing that I was, is we already did have a four-wheel drive, but I know that the four-wheel drive that you guys have has significantly less miles on it than the one that I have. And depending on what you guys want for a price, I may possibly be interested in purchasing your four-wheel drive just because of the fact that it's got significantly less miles.
that's why I was, proposing a lease because, it's simpler that way to sell it, they have to, would have to. Put it out for public bid, whereas a lease here, they don't have to do that. We've already put the notice in the paper about. That no one put in, so you could negotiate a lease on the one ambulance right now.
I'd be willing to lease it.
At least if you get used.
Okay, so
And then on the lease, you're not.
looking at that, leasing it, then you're gonna lease it right out of existence or what? I mean, when you get it to the point where it's no longer even because of the miles on it.
But you put a term on the lease. But then I think, the other argument is the hospital's lease for $1 because it's going to use for the public, and that's what this would be used for. You could put a stipulation, it's only used
It's
in
only for
Granite County.
So if we got called to go from like St. Jane, like tomorrow. My crew is going from Anaconda to Missoula. That ambulance then could not be used for that particular.
Save on the
I don't know that I put that in the lease, but
Could you
that
do
could be,
that? That
yeah.
doesn't sound right.
yeah, it could be,
That, no, you can't use this, only.
or just used for the public's. But yeah, you could do just Granite County. That's why you're
I
doing
would
it,
be more than happy to tell my crew that, be like, hey, we gotta take the red one if you're doing something that's not Granite County related.
because it's taxpayers that paid for it to begin with.
If it's only on a lease, then I think.
So
would
when
absolutely
it's on a
cover it.
lease, does that mean that you pay the insurance and you pay all this other stuff on it?
That's what the draft says.
And then what happens when it breaks down?
That says maintenance is on her, tires, oil changes,
Yeah, tires
but
Everything.
and,
when it comes back, it would be, not damaged, but wear and tear accepted, so it could have, it could have a lot of miles on it.
so like on the cot, you could lend her the cot until she was able to replace her cot. Or would release that to her too.
Well, I just right now, where she really needs it, that'd be the first thing to do and figure out on the ambulance thing, but right now, just let her use her contact, see really what.
Well, and I think we'd be willing to buy it, I just need.
We
numbers.
wouldn't have to put that.
Now, tell them.
Well, there's a, I think I'd have to look at the statute, 2,500 or something.
We let
behind
people
that.
use other stuff, like the other day, we left it. town or the person.
Do you still have that one thing that sheriff sent you that is supposed to be a good thing that they got for grant money or?
Oh, the Lucas, yes.
The only thing I'd say is if you have a cot down there not being used,
That's
it's
what
doing the
I
public,
understand.
no good at all.
Here's the thing, we still have a Phillipsburg district, but we're just not funding it. And then we're gonna maybe look at it for QRU, right? And then parking it anyway. What would be fair on a lease agreement with the ambulance that you might be interested in? I mean, how do you go about saying, okay, do you make an offer, or do we say this is what we offer you?
Gotta start with someone making an offer and yeah, counter offer if it's not acceptable, but.
And I understand where you're going, and then it comes right back down to, it's not really about the money as it is about taking care of the people.
Yeah, the medical center facility is $1 on the lease, but I'm not saying you have to do that here. This is just a rough draft lease, you guys can negotiate and.
Well, can we make it stop right now and then this letter? Give her the authority to go down and get the cost, so she has a cost.
Yeah, you have
And then we
authority.
can talk more about that, if we that way, we're done with that part.
Well, yeah, and I don't think leasing to a private enterprise for $1, when they're making money off it, is a fair. I mean, if she's willing to pay a reasonable lease agreement to use it,
Yeah. Well,
because hers is,
I hear you there, except for the county's person that we had in there.
She
from the
put
jail
wear
was
and
for,
tear.
you know.
she's gonna be putting the wear and tear on it, and it's gonna get to a point where the mileage is gonna be such that it's not even feasible to keep, and so she'll say, I don't want this lease anymore, and then and I mean, just.
Right, no, and that's why, that's why I made the comment about, just outright purchasing them, so that we don't have.
But
You know,
from-
but I understand where you're coming from on the purchase.
So if it was put out for bid,
Well, the cot itself wouldn't have to be put
no, I
out
mean,
for bid. The ambulance,
so you would purchase the cot, but you would rather just lease the ambulance.
Purchase the rig, the ambulance,
well, that would have,
owner of the cot.
but
Actually, I would just rather purchase all of it.
Yeah.
the ambulance has to be put out. for
Yeah, here
bid
you
though,
go.
issued,
Yeah,
so
okay, here you
the lease
go.
takes care of that problem.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So you'd rather just go ahead and purchase it, put it out for bid, anybody else bids on it. I mean, she'd give a fair, it would have to be fair and equitable. Let her purchase it. Instead of leasing it,
She'll have
but it
she'll
have
have
to
the
go
competition.
out for bid. Right,
Yeah.
Well, chances are nobody
Yeah.
else would bid on it.
well, I know, but it still
That-
has to go out for bid.
But
That's where if I was in your shoes, I'd wanna do it for $1 and give it to her that's being used here locally.
Well, right now, we're back to that thing, now she needs a copy of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You can,
Let's
Yeah.
take care of that.
yeah,
That's what I keep
Lower
saying,
the cost.
Keep jumping on this
Yeah.
animal. I know
Alright.
we gotta get that, but right now.
the cot could
I
be
know
loaned.
she says she'd take it all, but just to get by, they go get the damn pot and take it.
So then what about, like, all of the disposable equipment, cause there's like. All this disposable medical equipment that. The county has already paid for, like disposable seat collars and stuff that I know that. If we. Cause we burned through a lot of seat collars this winter on all of the accidents we've had. Are you interested in selling those? I mean, you guys have already paid for them, and I would just say, here's what I had, instead of ordering them and then getting them shipped to me, I'd rather give you the $15 for the seat collar.
Is there some already in the ambulance, or do you know?
I have no idea what's in there. I'm just saying, if you I have your permission to go down there and say, okay, I need 3 seat collars. I found 3, here's a check for $45.
Yes, I think you need to go in there and look, cause we don't even know what the hell we have, go in there and get what you need, and then just make it a fair thing to us.
Well, maybe Billy could go down there with her and they could
Yeah,
inventory and
Cause
whatever.
I mean, it's just going, and some of that shit's outdated, needs to be took out of it.
well, not even outdated, it's just, if I don't have to pay the shipping, which I don't have to pay shipping on something that's over $100, but if I only need 1 or 2 seat collars. I'm not gonna pay $40 in shipping on something that's only $30 to buy. So, and I'd rather give the money to you guys than to, Boundtree,
Okay, so could you set up a time with Billy? I think we're all.
Yeah, I can email
there.
Yes. We'll figure it out.
But still back to that, if you need that damn car, get it today and. Whatever, and I, yeah.
And then, the one other thing, so we are starting a class tonight. Which, two of the people enrolled in the class live in Phillipsburg. They work out of, well, one of them works in Drummond and one works in Anaconda, I think Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So they won't be around all the time, but I will mention to them about the QRU that you guys have been talking about. One of them actually worked for me in Billings a long time ago. He let his EMT go, so he's trying to get it back. So that actually might be something that he's interested in, you know, heading in. So I'm going to bring that up tonight. Or in the next couple of days
Sounds good.
on getting that taken care of.
And I just want to get back to this lease.
Yeah.
Thing, Granite County and the taxpayer paid a lot of money for these ambulances.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, but I don't think leasing to a private enterprise for $1.
Yeah, that's your call. And that's,
I just.
yeah,
I
I'll stay
think
out, yeah, I'll stay out of that.
If there's a way where if we don't think we're gonna be using them, then put them up for bid and let whomever give the highest bid, as long as it's fair and equitable. And like I said, that is monies that the taxpayer paid for these ambulances. And I just don't think that saying, okay, private enterprise, we
No,
have,
and that's like,
no, I'm just, stating.
The,
can't
one thing you
have-
could put
get
a-
for $1.
you could put a minimum, you could put a minimum bid on it. The only reason why I said that is because it'd be used for Granite County people. So
Alright.
just like the hospital is, because you guys could charge more up there, but I guess your argument there would be that's not making money, but
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that yeah, she can use it and it's got low miles and it's gonna help her out. Then a fair price, let it go back to the taxpayer kind of, so
Yeah.
to speak,
that's
for
really,
the amount of it, instead of saying, well, the taxpayer's gonna give you for $1.
right,
But what's the difference between her just using it for Granite County and then Granite County or Granite County use? I mean, it'd still be used for Granite County. That was the purpose of it. So,
she's come in
Well,
and
then the
paid us.
taxpayer paid for an ambulance for a
but you're
private
still getting the
enterprise.
use of it. You see.
If she wants to buy it, let her buy it.
I'm just saying that if we were running the ambulance shed down there and, through the county, they would be using it. If we lease it to her for $1, it would still be used for the same purpose in the Granite County.
Taxpayers are getting it.
You understand what I'm
But
saying?
sounds like she's willing to,
Making money off that
I-
ambulance, whether
I'm
it's that-
yeah.
Well,
There's a basis for doing it for $1, but it's there's also a basis for amount more than that.
I agree, it probably should be sold.
Yeah, I think
Or-
sell it, let them bid on
But-
it, and as far as this contract, I don't feel that we need to go into a contract with Eagle Ambulance, that's all I
I
feel.
don't think so.
The only thing I'd say on the bidding it out is then someone could come from Missoula and bid on it.
Well,
So
then-
I'm not
then-
guaranteeing it's gonna
yeah.
be used for, but you're gonna get money,
Yeah.
you get money.
But then should we get it? She's not gonna say, well, I'm gonna sell it to you, or we're gonna buy it for $1. Knowing that there's, and I'm not saying that you would even do
You
that.
would
Right.
come.
She could just be outbid, that's all.
right.
We got a public comment.
Oh, I thought you were exasperated with me.
No,
Okay.
You're,
I know you are.
Hey,
everything you're saying is real, it's,
go ahead, Elena. Go ahead, Elena.
What happened here? I don't know what happened. That may have
All
been-
right, thank you. It's kind of confusing, my hands up and muting and all this other stuff. Okay, first of all, I think this, I agree with Blanche a lot. The contract, this is a business, okay? We are not a business. We're a government entity. And Eagle Ambulance is a business. It makes money. Okay, that's number one. So that contract throws that whole thing out. As far as the ambulance equipment or whatever, it should be offered to another entity here in Granite County, the hospital district, the medical center. That should be offered to them for a lease of $1, just like Blaine said. The facilities of the hospital is $1 lease. Okay, this is all taxpayers, and I don't think you should put in the paper, whatever. Offer it to the hospital first. See what the hospital says, because I've had discussions with people at the hospital and they would love to have an ambulance there just in case they can't get Life Flight or another ambulance. And at least it'll be there on call if they happen to need one. And that's my comment, because I think I brought it up once before. I made a mistake and said for sale, and I was corrected saying, no, we put it up for lease. Oh, I don't know how much you wanted to put it up for lease, but nobody wanted it. But I think the hospital would be more than happy to have it for $1, and it's sitting there in case they need it. Thank you.
Catherine will answer your,
About what?
about the hospital and that.
Oh, well, if the hospital were to have the ambulance, you still have to have the EMS staff to run it, and there's a nationwide EMS shortage, so having an ambulance at the hospital is a moot point.
Besides that, if she wants to put a 4x4, then don't we have 2-wheel ambulances? And we can loan to somebody else. If we
Yeah,
want.
yeah. We've covered all of this.
Here's my counter to that. If I go up and use the hospital, I pay. If I go on Eagle, I pay as the Granite County resident. Eagle Ambulance is doing just as much for this county as Granite County Medical Center, in my opinion. Maybe even more. They came in and saved our bacon. So
Thank you.
that's where I'm coming from on helping Eagle Ambulance out.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. So let's move on with this and, you could get that, look in there, as long as you're getting caught, look in there and, she'll get you the combo.
I think it's still the same. And I don't know, and then.
What day works best for you?
And then on that, the releasing, we'll see, maybe next week and figure it out to be whatever. So,
So, yeah, you guys figure out what, and then just, we'll go from there.
we'll put it back on and then make a discussion and decision on next week and put it out to bid.
So you're okay with not having? I mean, I'm sorry, I just.
You're good. You're good there.
Well, it saved
And
me.
if you somehow were not able to do business here, then the county can start looking at Plan B.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah, get that caught, you need it. You can go get it today as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
Got help. Are you
Oh, yeah.
strong?
Thanks for coming in.
Catherine, when you go in and look and see what's it.
Take a look around, but yeah, Billy and I will look up on.
Val has the code, or over at the sheriff's department, they have the code if you need it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
I would do a motion on that cot, and that she can buy the.
I make a motion to loan the cot to Eagle Ambulance.
I'll second it.
Public comment.
Oh.
Yeah, all in favor. Motion carried.
And then a motion on looking, are you gonna have that on again, or you can do a motion now on selling certain equipment to her for fair market value?
I'd entertain a motion on that way. it's-
Or supply.
About we move on.
Supply.
I'll make a motion to sell miscellaneous equipment to Eagle Ambulance.
Or supplies, but supplies, yeah.
I'll second it.
Public comment. Things not all in favor. Motion been carried.
Oh, you got a public comment.
I'll write it.
Go ahead. Just put the deep breath.
Thank you. You do ask for public comment. I'm going to give a public comment. Thank you very much. What was said before, oh, there isn't an EMT at the hospital. You mean to tell me nobody at the hospital is trained in medical care? That's interesting, very interesting. And even the equipment and supplies, you're gonna sell it or whatever you want to do to a private business without somebody else who may be interested in it. And you made a motion on that also. That's kind of really interesting. And I know we're over time, but you really don't open it up when you should be for public comment. And so please forgive me if I'm going over a little bit. I could say more, but I won't. Thank you.
Here's one thing I'd say there, though, Elena, is the hospital district said over and over again, they don't have the personnel to run it. They would,
Yeah.
so right now, I mean, I guess they could look at it, but right now they're so limited in personnel. Also, they're gonna sell those supplies for fair market value, so they're not gonna get a benefit to it.
And it's just going away.
Yeah, some of it's getting old and it'd be outdated, so we gotta.
We're doing the right thing. He wants to buy it, maybe she can buy it if she's that worried about it. All right, well, we're gonna move on. We got other people here. Project update from Trout and Lemon, come on up. Guys, I'll have to state your name and stuff.
Sure. I'm Tess Gammon, I work with Charter Limited as a project manager.
Rob Roberts, also a crowd on the.
Hi.
Blaine.
I'm Billy. Nice to meet you.
Blaine County.
Blaine, meet you. Good meeting you, Billy.
Nice to meet you. I'm Billy. It's nice to meet you.
So what's up?
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a couple of things we can talk about. The main issue, I just wanted to give you guys an update on the Rumsey Mill reclamation project at Fred Burr Creek that's been going on. I'll give you some details, but basically the EPA tonight is gonna give a project update to the Granite Headwaters Watershed Group and Granite CV virtually by Teams meeting, so I figured this was a good occasion to come in front and get it for you guys, to make sure you have the information as well, so. I'll kind of, I'll give you some brief history and then tell you what's going on now, but basically about 5 years ago, the Granite Headwaters Watershed Group and Montana DEQ started working together to investigate some water quality impacts on Fred Burr Creek. Developed the project to potentially reclaim the Rumsey Mill site, which is at the end of the road, on private land. And basically, before that happened, they, and then later in conjunction with us, we did some water sampling, soil sampling along the watershed. Found that some of the historic tailing and contamination from the Rumsey Mill had migrated throughout the floodplain, all down through private land, down to, essentially what is that big drop off? There's a glacial moraine that sort of drops off before we hit a Highway 1. Those properties have been subdeveloped over the last 20 years now, so instead of one landowner, you have about 30 that crisscross, across the watershed. So what we did is we started working with the landowner at the Rumsey Mill site to see if he would allow us to collect some more information to try and more accurately characterize and understand what was still at the mill site. Was there a loading source of mercury and other metals, which is what was being detected in the water? And he was reticent to work with the Watershed Group and TU as a nonprofit, but it turns out he was interested in working, collaborating with the EPA to collect more information. So for the last couple of years, the EPA has had a project manager who's been working with the landowner, working with myself. They have collected some more water information, they've collected soil samples, and essentially what's going on now is they are going back this summer to do some more intensive sampling. So now that, before they were looking at what is there a problem or isn't there, now they're looking at, we know there's a problem, is there a way we can actually make a measurable improvement? Can we actually reclaim the site? So their sampling will be much more intensive and more geared to understanding the scope and scale and seeing if there's a way that they could remove contaminated material that has mercury and other metals. If there's a place they could take it, recap it so that it's, safely contained and then restore the site. So that's sort of the basic summary of what's going on. Like I said, the EPA has a project manager out of Denver who's going to be telling the Watershed Group tonight what the plan is, where the samples would be taken, what kind of analyses they would do. And they have hired a local firm out of Ellen named Tetra Tech, and you guys are probably familiar with, they do a lot of work on the Upper Clark Fork. They are the project manager locally to actually do the sampling and do the analysis. So, I'm sure you guys have probably heard of the project in the past through various means. I just wanted to make sure and come here and sort of give you an update, so you know what's happening, know what the recent progress is. And have an opportunity to answer, you know, any questions on.
What have you found so far? Toward Murphy and Melissa?
Yeah, so, there is definitely contaminated material along Fredberg Creek from the mill site down through private land. Generally, that material is found within about 150 feet of the creek. So the area that would be flooded, you know, at high water, and you guys probably saw the big flood that happened up there, what, 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was. So that's the transport mechanism, that's how that stuff is migrated over time. And then that material is generally in about the top foot to 18 inches of the surface. So the closer you get to the creek and the more you're at the surface, that's where you're finding it. And then after that, it's just sort of scattered in hot spots, right? Along the banks, deposited in the floodplain. So, you know, we came up with a potential plan to remove that material, to remediate and restore the area. But given how dispersed it was over a 2-mile segment, and the fact that there were 30 landowners, we deferred that plan because of cost effectiveness until we could figure out whether there was a project at the mill site and whether that was actually the source of the material. So in other words, since water flows downstream, we wanted to make sure that we were actually taking care of what was upstream before we spent any work downstream. But we have a very good understanding of where that stuff is down below. Now we need to kind of pinpoint at the mill site itself, where is it? You know, can we effectively collect it and remove it, and what that would look like before we move through? So, I mean, at this point, there's, I guess I would say there's no guarantee that we actually do anything in Fredberg Creek, right? Until we understand it, see whether it's cost effective, and see whether there's an achievable, measurable.
Where would your dump site be to clean it up?
Right, so if you were looking for a repository, you know, or essentially a landfill for the material, you'd have to find one that was away from the floodplain and was relatively stable. The only place we've theoretically looked at is on BLM property, you know, downstream, which is sort of where the road crossing is. They have some land that's high and dry, and it's an isolated parcel for them. But that's on federal land. That would take, you know, agreements with them to actually do something like that, because you'd be moving waste from private to federal. Now, they do have waste on their portion of the stream where that swimming hole is, so it's potential that there is an improvement to them if we clean up that property at the same time. But that's the second step, if we figure out that, you know, if we know what we need to do and where the material is, then we gotta figure out where's the place we'll take it.
Are they bringing things to Black Pine, or is that closed out?
That's a great question. I don't know if there's any future work at Black Pine. That would have been a potentially good site to do that, had it been, you know, opened at the same time. And it's not that far of a transport to get there.
So is it just Mercury, or is there other elements?
There's other elements, you know, arsenic, lead, kind of the typical metals that we see. You know, this was a tailings repository, so this was fine ground material that went through the mill plant, and there was a large tailings dam there in Fredberg Creek in the early 1800s, which, you know, has since sort of migrated away. So mercury was the processing agent, right? And mercury is a lot harder to track because it's in a semi-liquid form. So, and it's also the most hazardous to human health, fisheries, and wildlife. So mercury is the main concern, but there are. And I guess I would say the assumption is that if you're picking up the areas with the heaviest mercury, you're most likely picking up the areas with the other, you know, highest heavy metals at the same time. And I think that's it on that one. Like I said, you know, there's a small public meeting tonight. I don't know if the EPA will choose to do any press or the watershed group will, but that might happen. And then besides that, you know, I'm working directly with the watershed group EPA as a project manager, have been for years. And if you guys have any questions, you know, about this project or hearing anything, I'd be happy to.
How was your proposal you did down the zoo on the rattlesnake? I like that.
The dam removal? Yeah.
That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I work, take a step back, I work in western Montana in the Park Fork River and do watershed restoration, fisheries restoration projects for Trout Unlimited and stuff. I've done a number of mine reclamation projects in the Little Blackfoot and parts of the Middle Clark Fork. And so some members of the conservation district and watershed group here asked me to come assist them about 5 years ago when they started working on this project with DQ, because they felt like they needed a non-government voice and advisor to be involved in the project. So
Did you have anything to do with the fish ladder thing down here in Maxville?
are you on the Flint Creek itself, on Allendale?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tess and I were not the leads on that project, but we were involved in that project, working with TU, NRD, and Fish Wildlife Parks.
What's gonna happen at Willow Creek? Lower Willow Creek.
With the metals contamination? That's a good question. Do you know the update on that?
No, I guess the last update I had is when we inquired for the watershed group on what, if anything, had followed up from a monitoring perspective.
We see they put a new sign in about the things.
On the reservoir?
It's
Yeah.
pretty hot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's still contamination and I don't remember exactly the details of it, but we could show that we had followed up with them just out of curiosity.
I mean, what I do know about the reservoir on Willow Creek and Fredberg Creek itself is that the state of Montana sees it's like the top highest mercury levels in the state for, waterborne mercury. I think there might be one site out in eastern Montana that is higher, but essentially these are some of the highest mercury levels in those two streams that feed Flint Creek. And, that's why these projects came about. That's why people were concerned, is because they were seeing heavy metals in Flint Creek itself. These are the two main sources. And so I know the reservoir is sort of that catch point in an area where a lot of that has settled over time, hence the fish consumption advisory.
I'm just curious. Anything else?
And then, Tess, I don't know if you wanted to just kind of give them an update, just generally what you're doing in Flint Creek and Sioux Creek.
Sure.
Here and
Yeah, so I've been working in this area for 5 years for TU, just kind of focused on project work with private public landowners and geographic. And some of my colleagues have done some projects for Allendale, like Rob mentioned, we were working with the state on, and I came alongside that work. So one of those other projects was, for example, a project restoring some eroding stream mains on Flint Creek down near Hall. So we'll be, yeah, exactly. I think we also worked on that fish screen on the main stem of Rock Creek. So, the kinds of work there's a bunch of different types of projects that we'll do with private landowners. It's usually looking at irrigation upgrades. These projects have to have kind of the mutual benefits of improving water management, and then we keep the fish in the creek. All voluntary kind of based, and then sometimes it'll be more habitat focused. So looking at eroding stream banks and trying to stabilize those, provide some improved habitat also in stream with that. But it can be also simple fencing, keeping sort of a grazing management plan that helps benefit the creek and water quality as well. So, I've been working with the Forest Service and some of these projects and replacing culverts, but also with private landowners. I don't know if I've introduced myself before, but that's
Anything else? Any public comment?
I think Billy has our email, so.
I do.
Well, I appreciate the update and stuff. Just keep it posted and we'll let us know what's going on up there. It's a pretty big deal.
Yep. Yeah, it is. I think you should hear from us rather than, the rumor mill.
Yeah.
Do the fish in Flint Creek have mercury?
Fishing Twin Creek do have some mercury, but you know, I couldn't tell you the levels offhand. There's a gentleman at the state named Trevor Selch, who's a toxicologist, and he measures that. But you know, the fish consumption advisory is on the reservoir in Lower River Pit because that's where they've seen it high enough that it could actually cause, you know, an impact if people were eating that over and over.
The mercury is one of those, like the word is the bioaccumulation, so it sticks around because it's in that semi-soluble state, it sticks around, it kind of settles to the bottom, and then when that's picked up in the stream column. And the fish eat food and by byproduct some of that, some of that mercury. In a place where there's a pond, if those fish are being consumed again and again, that mercury will increase with each fish. So that's why it is a little bit different than the rest of the metals, where it increases up the food chain.
And so if you're gonna eat a fish, just eat a little one.
Get too greedy.
Eat a bunch of little ones, not one big one.
Pretty bad at night time, you see them go. Well, I appreciate everything. Yeah, it was awesome working with you. Okay.
Hey, you
Grow.
you pulled my truck out of the ditch too, on the ice.
Oh, save the day, yeah.
Proud moment for me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you and
Yep.
good luck and need something holler.
Okay.
There's more, just see if we can get that going. There's a lot of. The locals, about quite a bit of locals got their jobs and need a lot. You know, it helps out.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Take care, Brad.
Good
Thanks.
day.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Good day.
Take a handful. Alrighty, so. We'll go ahead and move on, or we better wait for this one.
Yeah,
Are they calling in and
I'm thinking Ken Jenkins is likely coming in, would be my understanding.
we'll wait? Yeah, it was good work, it was good. Good work.
Yeah, good. The fish screening deal in Flint Creek was Fish Falling Park, or who?
Not like limited,
But they
there's
said
a
they-
bunch of them, she was kind of overseer on a bunch of the. Stuff that we put in, she's more, mainly when I worked with, she was the bank and doing the cleaning the
Yeah,
banks out,
okay.
pulling all that stuff behind the Eagle Stud Mill, they cleaned all that out back there. and
Okay.
Had to plant all kinds of willows, it was a pretty good cleanup.
And that was through the Upper Clark Fork
Yep.
Resource Remediation.
And Jeremy Becky's husband had your job. It was a good job, that's why. Yeah, hopefully they can keep it local, or they get locals get the bids. 'Cause Put a lot of people work around here.
He bid on that job.
I mean, might as well keep it here, they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, the water cleanup, the big thing, there's lots of money out there for it right now,
Mhm.
federal money. I'm stirring down there.
There's a lot from that Upper Clark Fork, though, that money, there's a lot of that for local landowners who will do like fish screens and clean up the basin. All the tributaries match up.
Yeah, they have millions, don't they?
Oh, yeah. And there's always interest building upon it, and they're redoing the plan this year,
Need to get the money out for the dams, and that's just sitting there,
for the
and
infrastructure money.
Is Ryan Zinke coming in?
His representative, Jack Curran, wants to do a listening session with you guys. He's also gonna be at the joint sessions meeting too for a listening session.
Will you
There's-
guys have fun?
There's overlap.
I have,
They're hosting. I have no part.
I have CPT meeting at 1, so I'll be here for the, what's his name?
Jack Curran.
Yeah.
If I'm pronouncing it right.
You're not gonna keep milking this, are you?
The, what?
Physical therapy.
Oh, I have that on Thursday, I have it on Thursday, not today, I have CPT meeting. It's getting better.
Does it hurt? You get sore?
Well, I'm like, sat for a while and get up, it's pretty stiff, and then after I do my exercises, it didn't hurt, but I said.
When I was in high school, I ripped up my knee bad, ruined my career. Anyway,
ACL or what was it?
well, them days, you know what it was actually. I just ripped it, my knee, and
Ligaments were tore.
anyway, so 3 or 4 months later, went to physical therapy. I had to walk around stiff leg for that long. And the therapy was you just lay down. Just did like that. It just forcefully bent the whole. I mean,
Just everything on
it hurts.
Yeah,
And that was physical therapy in those days.
That's awful.
doing too much and hurting you.
But you should have been bending
Yeah.
your knee then all the time,
Hmm?
and you were walking stiff legged.
Oh, yeah, well, I couldn't bend it.
It's definitely gradual, because you just started having to do the leg lifts with like 10 pounds. I did that both, and then having a weight on my ankle and doing leg lifts. So yeah, it's been slow to get to that point. And
It'll still bother me if I go out
the
and
good,
walk 10 miles or something. No,
how with
I'll be-
weather changes. Are you getting like arthritis and anything, or?
No, it's not arthritis. It's
it's
just,
just-
it's done that forever.
Yeah.
Since,
Knees are important, yeah, that's then, yeah. My basketball days are over. Had a dream the other night I was playing basketball, I don't know. I'll be right back. They should do one of those bottle deals here, have warm water.
Sometimes it gets cold.
That goes on for a while.
I know I use it to water my plant. And fill my
Kills the
Keurig.
plants and-
Yeah. Test it. They look to be thriving. They like the light.
Time's the 12:30 on the.
Yeah, he was anxious to have this on.
Who
Ken was.
was?
Ken.
Oh.
Good,
Yeah,
how are
going.
you?
What's new?
Much.
And you got a text or. You got your phone or plans? Okay. Blanche, you have your phone?
Whoops, sorry.
Oh, I'm sending you a text. I'm sending you a text.
Oh, okay.
Of an email.
You know, what's funny is that email that I tried to pick up on my phone, Billy, it's up on my regular email, but I couldn't pick it up. My phone didn't, I couldn't open it. It was doing something.
Oh, yeah, that
I just been looking at the email
now.
from the sheriff.
Oh.
You don't have your phone, sorry?
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay.
What do you, oh, do you want me to have them sign? Well, they're not, I have to do a water. too.
I don't.
Just get that email from. here.
No.
Here,
Oh, the second one?
She
this
just,
one.
Karen Alley from Mako just sent an email.
Will you get me a chocolate
Morning.
Yeah.
from the candy dish?
Yeah.
They were on something.
Did you see that one?
Yeah, I gave her my phone.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, but I don't know that I see what she's saying. Cause there is more than. This thing on that. You try some, you defend it.
Yeah. I think-
I didn't know if you were controlled pieces of the flat. So there's two good on there. Okay, how are you?
Breaking it up more, yeah. All right, well, it's glad we figured. When about 30, we'll go ahead with this. Meadow Creek LLC boundary line adjustment appeal decision, discussion and decision.
Okay,
Linda,
sorry
wanna
about that.
start us out on it.
Yep, so this came in as a boundary line survey, close to a month ago. And, and the plat that you have is the updated version. So it came in and it had, I don't know, maybe 3 parcels less on it. And I looked at it and, I declared that, I made a determination that this was evasion. So our subdivision rules for boundary line relocates. Let me just get it out here and read it to you. So the boundary line relocation is an exemption that's in the state law that allows adjoining parcels to move their boundaries around, sell a little bit off to one, whatever, so that you can get different sizes of parcels essentially, without going through subdivision review. And, you know, the key presumptions of it are that you're not creating additional parcels. But in this it says, the use of the exemption is presumed to have been adopted for the purposes of evading if the reviewing agent determines the documentation submitted according to the section does not support the stated reason for relocation, or the proposed relocation creates a parcel of less than 160 acres, which prior to the relocation included more than 160 acres. So, we have occasionally had ranchers who come in and they'll take a bigger chunk of 160 and they'll move a little bit off. To sell like a 20 acre, maybe make a 20 from a 10 or whatever. And sell that to somebody, or vice versa, they'll take a little off of it and sell a slightly small. And we've had those in like a one-on-one situation. This one's different in that he's taking a bunch of parcels. And some of these parcels are miles away, at least a good mile away. And he's scooting all the lines down and creating an area where all of the parcels are collected and essentially then you'd have 6 parcels for sale. That this is right across from the Trout Creek subdivision in a similar style of subdivision. So given that this was moving boundaries from ranch parcels, and there were when it was first submitted, more than 50% of the parcels were at 160 acres or right at 160. So a couple of them were like 157 or 155. So I sent a letter back to the developer, or in this case, it's Meadow Creek LLC, saying this is, in my opinion, an evasion of the subdivision law, and you can resubmit this, but it has to be resubmitted as a subdivision. As part of this process, they have an appeal process to come to the commissioners with additional information and say, this is why we don't believe it's evading, and the commission makes the final determination as to whether it's evading or not evading, and they'll allow the boundary line relocation, or they'll require it to come through subdivision.
So. Couple things here, the commission here acts as like a quasi judicial board in this, so you basically have judge-like duties here and listening to the appeal. Then you believe, if you believe that it's my opinion is presumed to be an invasion unless they can rebut that, and so you hear today evidence that potentially a rebuttal, and you'd have to look and see if by the preponderance of the evidence if that presumed evasion is rebutted or not. So I encourage the commission to keep an open mind, listen to what's presented to you, and you don't have to make your decision today. You can take it under advisement.
And I guess Ken Jenkins is here representing the Meadow Creek, and he did submit in a letter explaining that they added some additional parcels in. So they added parcels into what they were doing in order to have more parcels that were under the 160 threshold, to show that they were not moving creating parcels or taking what the 160 and making it smaller. And essentially they'll have one giant parcel that's at I think 1,800 acres. It's a huge parcel. And I guess the other big concern for the county is that once this big giant parcel has been created, there's nothing that really says at that point that they can't. The subdivision regulations in Montana say you can go survey out 160s anytime you want, or you can sell adequate parts or sections. And it's going to be impossible, if not for us to track that, like to say, oh, well, this 160 is in the middle of this giant parcel and it wasn't supposed to be sold separate from the parcel. I mean, it's gonna, it would go through because the clerk and recorder, they see sections that you're selling a section and they don't check the legal on it. Because we don't have anything like this. We've never had one where they've melded this huge 1,800 acre parcel together in order to move all the boundaries down.
Okay, so you're saying that the 1,900 acre one, which includes a whole section, with the section 2. And if they pulled that section 2 and sold it, can they legally do that, or would it be something that they would do and we wouldn't be tracking it?
Now this is my opinion, this is kind of getting off into Blaine's realm, but my opinion is that since they're saying they're aggregating this, this is one giant parcel at that point. The problem is that if Sarah got a deed for section 2 of 515, how is she ever gonna remember that particular section 2 out of the entire county can't be sold like every other section 2 can be sold? Because those sections can be sold without ever going through subdivision. So this puts some of these parcels in a situation where we have to track it, and then if it does at some point go through, then we have to track that person down now, and they definitely have been evading at that point and need to go through subdivision.
Okay, so you're looking at, for example, Sarah putting in a record, not realizing, okay, that's a legitimate 160 acres and it's. Adequate parts. So then it would go to the Department of Revenue. And they would research it. Could they miss it too?
Oh, yeah. This is my opinion now. This is just my opinion. I don't think it's gonna get caught in that we sell, we see those sales all the time and we never question that a whole section being sold is a legitimate sale. I mean, they're just not usually melded into big parcels like that.
Okay, so the original survey boundary adjustment. And then you appealed it, and then you got the new one and you've added parcels. How can you do that?
I'm gonna
Explain
let
that to me.
Ken explain that, because he can probably explain it a little better than I'm explaining it. Plus, he has a bigger copy of the map, which will help.
Yeah, that was gonna be my first question is, if you guys can't see what we're talking about, I brought the full size version. So let me just explain. So this is sort of the result of what we're trying to do. There are 6 tracts that probably average around 50 acres.
Looks like a subdivision.
And that comment comes from the state model law, the evasion criteria, that it looks like a subdivision. My training as a professional.
Oh, I'm not
surveyor-
trying to insult you. I'm just
I just want to
looking
explain.
at it as a layman, I would say that looks like subdivision.
And if it didn't, I'm not doing my job or doing my training or doing what I'm licensed to do. When I create a new tract of land, there ought to be some geometric sensibility to it. The availability of access, water and sewer, those are all things that I'm supposed to look at. So if I'm doing my job, even if it's exempt from subdivision review, it may well look like a subdivision. That's what we're trained to do. That's what I'm licensed to do. And so that part of the model law, I just, as you can tell, I don't agree with it. So to explain.
So can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
On that page right now, so for this piece right now, it's one parcel. It's one giant parcel right now. And it sits right here on the map. So this is one parcel right now.
So that's
This is
one part.
This sheet here is a good explanation of what we're doing. As is the case with most large
Okay.
ranches. They are made up of not just one huge piece of land, they are made up of multiple existing tracts. And so we're showing all of these individual pieces, there's 10 of them total. We're aggregating the 10 down to the, well, essentially down to 7. These 6 that are 50 acres. And then this one big one, as Linda mentioned. I guess boundary adjustment and evasion criteria. I want to talk about that a little bit. Is always kind of a difficult thing to understand. As a landowner. Who, let's just say in this case, they own a large ranch, and within that large ranch. There are 10 tracts of land essentially sitting within a 2,400 acre piece of ground. That they could sell all 10 of those by doing nothing more than recording a deed. So if you think about it that way from a landowner's perspective, why would a landowner go through a $50,000 subdivision process when they already have tracts of land? The subdivision process is for when you have a piece, a single piece of ground, and you want to turn that into multiple tracts of land. In this case, they already have the multiple tracts. So why would they spend $50,000 to go through a subdivision? That is a pertinent fact when it comes to landowners.
I hear you're saying this, that there's multiple descriptions. And what you're doing is moving those multiple descriptions into a more prettier picture. So you're making it prettier for them to be able to me, it looks like, okay, I'm gonna move this one that's sitting right in the middle. But is it following the actual boundary adjustment? Aren't you supposed to speak with the boundary?
You're correct. As Linda mentioned earlier, on boundary adjustments, one of the most pertinent facts is that you can't end up with more tracts of land than you started with. So we're just taking this large piece of land and we're moving all of this stuff to one portion of it, creating these 50-acre lots. There's a beneficial aspect to doing that. If they were to take basically 2,400 acres and sell that up in 10 pieces, you've just sprawled residential occupation of larger tracts over 2,400 acres of what used to be a ranch. In this case, you've got, at least for now, if we do this, you've pushed all of those tracks into one smaller, you've clustered them, if you will, which that probably isn't a big term in this county yet. But clustering is encouraged in some of the higher growth counties in an effort to preserve open space and ranch country, rather than, taking 2,400 acres and busting that into 10 pieces. Let's do those 10 pieces in a smaller area and preserve that open space. So that's a benefit to what we're doing. I do want to talk about the large 1,800 or whatever acre one single piece of ground that's left here. Linda is correct that in Montana law, you can take a large piece of ground and the trigger for subdivision review is 160 acres. So your concerns about that concept are really a legislative concern. That isn't something the county can control because the trigger for subdivision review in Montana is 160 acres. What we're aggregating right now are all of these pieces that already exist. Okay. I don't think the county would have a whole lot of
legal fraction. If they start trying to call 160-acre tracts evasion, because the Montana legislature has never codified that. And I would think if they tried to, there would be a lot of pushback from the ranching community. One of the things to understand about these large ranches that you're starting to see change hands in Granite County. Part of the value of those ranches, the astronomical prices that people are paying for those ranches, has a lot to do with what is contained within the perimeter of this ranch. How many pieces are there? That is an important aspect of the value of these ranches. And so back to, I think what we're proposing here, we're clustering instead of occupying 2,400 acres, which from a long-range planning standpoint is a good thing. We technically meet Granite County subdivision regulations in that 6 of the tracts that we're adjusting are all under 160 acres now, and they're under 160 acres when we're done. We're taking 4 of those and aggregating them, basically just getting rid of them. And again, back to subdivision, there's evasion and there's avoiding. If you already have tracts of land, you're going to try to use them. Well, it makes no sense to try to do, to go through a $50,000 subdivision when you've already got tracts of land. Subdivision is for creating new tracts of land that never existed. In this case, there are tracts that exist. We're configuring them in a better configuration than what they are now.
Well, just saying, you're doing it here, what's to say you're not gonna move over here and just start eating?
Again, we're getting into legislative things that have never happened. That, on a huge ranch like this, there are opportunities to do this as much as the guy wants to, I suppose. I don't know of any further plans with the rest of it.
But it's easier to sell a 50-acre chunk than a 204.
I'm sure it probably is.
I'm just going with what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't say it's easier. I think
Well, it gets that if he-
this is a better
if that's
configuration.
400 acres, it's all 100. I'm just going by.
No, so if a rancher wants to sell, let's just say, I want to sell 6 pieces. I own this ranch. Rather than willy-nilly take the pieces as they are already of record, which may or may not have access, which may or may not have provision for water and sewer, reconfigure those into something that makes sense. For all I know, they want to keep the rest of this for cow pasture rather than sell it off. So anyway, I think our first version, I agree with Linda, it did not meet the county regulations. We've changed it up. I look at our meeting today not as an appeal of the determination of evasion. That version of what we were doing is null and void. We've redone this. We now meet the county standard, and what you're considering is a boundary line adjustment that does meet the county subdivision regulations.
And I guess I would say that the reason the law says don't take 160s and shrink them like this is because you do have big parcels of land where you could just recycle this process over and over again, like you said. You could scoot them all to this end, redivide them all into 160s, scoot them all to this end, redivide them, and you could just keep going and going and going with that process. And I think, that's the whole point of saying 160s, as a rule, don't go into small little parcels. They stay big parcels, and I mean, I think the intent is clear there that. You know, they believe that that this isn't one parcel that's left, this is one parcel that could still be cut into 160s and then sold, and.
Okay, so
So
looking
then
at,
you do have more lots than what you started with.
looking at this, the 6 lots here.
Mhm.
And then the dotted lines are the old lots, right? The old legal descriptions
Let me look.
on the big page.
Or whatever it is.
So like, for example, the little square up in section 32, we're moving it down to section 5.
Right,
Yeah, so is that the dotted lines? Those are
yeah, some of the
the old
dotted.
legals.
Right, some of the dotted lines are just showing the section lines in there, but the ones within the black. Solid black outline. Any dotted lines in there are old boundaries, and they're all marked old boundaries, old boundaries, old boundaries.
Is this something that's, I haven't researched that is being done around the state? I mean, is it being done elsewhere, this kind of thing?
Not that I know of, but I have not searched that out either.
Yeah.
So then you took all these sections and threw them over into the 1900 one.
Right, I mean.
So does that end section 36 and section 31? They're bye-bye, you couldn't sell them?
36 is a state section. I think.
Yeah, 36, 31 aren't included in the survey.
I know, I was just taking that as an example,
Oh,
Yeah.
if it were.
If
So
it
those
were-
dotted lines
Well,
there,
the thing is, that's kind of my opinion, but their opinion is no, that doesn't get rid of them from being able to sell 36. Because state law lets you sell 160s.
so this big one, like I said before, you could pull out section 2 and sell the whole section.
Right,
Then you'd have separate parcels.
you could still sell, break them into 160s.
Would that
And
create,
And then you
Separate
do have
parcels?
more parcels. Yeah, it does, it creates more parcels.
I don't know, to me, I mean, they're just
But it
looking at
just
it.
doesn't create more parcels in this process right now, it creates more parcels potentially down the road. It gives the opportunity for more parcels to be created, but it doesn't right now create more parcels. It's really a sticky wicket, which is why I think that the law says, you know, take 160s and shrink them like this. Taking a one 160 and one parcel next to it and adjusting the line a little bit. We've let that happen and we never had problems with the ranchers doing that. But taking a whole bunch of parcels and shrinking them all up and shoving them all up to one end of the road that's easily accessible. I mean, some of these are way back there in the hills and. I mean, you know, I don't know that there's even a road that could get you to 35, that parcel up in there, I don't know, the ones that are on 35 just north of this parcel, those are mining claims in there. So there must be some way to access them, but. I mean, you know, we're literally talking miles and miles away.
The one thing I thought that, do you want me to talk now or you wanna hear public comment? I brought this up with Karen Alley, Mako's attorney from land use planning. She looked at it and said, this is a clear evasion of subdivision review. I've attached a JPEG from Cadastral of COS 1031, it's blue triangle. This is a COS that they are dividing into 6 tracts. However, the bigger issue with boundary line locations is that you are adding tracts. So typically you would start with 6 tracts and end with 6 tracts. So their opinion is that it's or her opinion is it's a evasion of subdivision. I guess.
I guess the other thing that the county really needs to think of is this is precedent setting for the county. And, you know, this isn't the only rancher in town. There's a lot of ranches and who's to stop any of the other ranchers from doing this same process and just shrinking all their parcels into little cluster subdivisions and you know. Going on with business, I don't know, I mean, that's why I had originally declared it evasion and, you know, why it came through the appeal process and is before you. If it meets the technicalities of the law, that's debatable, but, it might, I don't know, but it certainly doesn't meet the intent and the spirit, in my opinion, of the law. When it comes to boundary line relocations and lot systems, that's my opinion.
Well, you look at this in section 32 with that one little square up in the corner. And going. What boundary line does that fit into? I mean, here's this little one up here, and which one? How does that meet with these boundaries? Aren't the boundary lines supposed to be together? Aren't supposed to be boundary adjustment? The boundary's supposed to stay, you're supposed to have some kind of boundary line. You're adjusting that boundary line.
Right, so I think I could try to explain that. So if you start with the perimeter of everything that you started with, all of the original tracts of record, which is on that second sheet. There's 10 of them, they're all contiguous. And so we're just moving all of those boundaries to the east. And in doing so, eliminating 4 of the tracts.
I need to study this more. Can we table this?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm lost here on some of this too. I think we need to table it, what, 2 weeks?
So I just have a question
Go ahead.
for Linda. You feel this is an evasion?
I feel this is evasion.
I'm looking at it too, and I'm thinking, okay, he's taking hobnodge legal descriptions and moving them all nice and tidy and neat into, which makes it, you know, all nice and tidy and neat, which you do if you were gonna, like with the subdivision, you split off and make, but he's taking legal descriptions and turning them into what is, he professed saying that's what his job is to make them pretty. I think, I agree with Linda, is my opinion. That it should go to subdivision regulations.
If there was no way for that larger parcel to ever be sold separate, it has to stay glued together. That's one thing, but it doesn't have to stay glued together. And that's really the concern there. And that's why I feel like this is evasion, because this can just literally really break.
You took legal descriptions, all sort of legal descriptions in different sections and moved them into one section. And if, as far as I'm concerned, you created different legal descriptions.
That's what a boundary line adjustment
I know,
always.
but usually you go with the boundary line instead of taking from the bottom of one and sticking it clear up to the top. How does that?
Well, it's
A
because
boundary
they're
line.
all contiguous to start with. And so we're just moving multiple boundaries. And it's all contiguous when we're done. I would point out that the first version of this, which was denied, we had a note on there that the remainder could not be divided without Granite County review. We took that note off after that first version was denied. That was our attempt initially to address the concern about the remainder being divided into 160s. But because that was taken off and we had to involve a bunch more tracts of record that are part of the ranch and they have value, we had to take more of those and essentially eliminate 4 of them for nothing. In order to meet this, we took off the note we had on there that prohibited 160 division.
whether or not the owner might be willing to put that note back on there. Linda and I discussed this. Linda didn't think going forward that having a note on there would preclude the county from recording 160-acre deeds.
And I still don't, I don't think it would get caught. I think
Right.
it was just,
That is not,
that's money,
that is not the landowner's problem. That's the county's problem.
but, right, I agree, that is the county's problem. But not taking large 160s and shrinking them to create your problem is part of how the county deals with with those problems. I mean.
Okay,
In
so-
this case, if we allowed it, then we've created the problem that we now need to track.
So for example, these legal descriptions or these lots here. You'd have to have a reference deed. So your reference deed would be from the old legal description, which isn't even in the same legal description.
The reference would be the new survey plat. That would be
You
the
wouldn't-
recording.
It's completely new and you wouldn't reference the old legal description where you got the boundary from.
But we would need to report deeds from Meadow Creek to Meadow Creek for all of these pieces.
Well, I'm with Chuck, I think we need to table it, I need a little more information on it.
You want to hear public comment? and then-
Yeah.
Then move it for, continue it for 2 weeks.
I have a time too.
Huh?
I have a time for that 2 weeks, for 10 AM on April 25th.
Any public comment? Any other public comment? There's none, I guess let's table it for the 26th at 10 o'clock, you said?
The 25th, which will be 2 weeks at 10 AM.
That was good. Guys,
Yeah. I need that time.
So
I need that time.
one thing you can do is you can do independent research. You shouldn't hear, so you're acting like judges, you shouldn't hear ex parte communication from different people. So you can get,
All righty, well, that'll be the deal, well, 25th at 10 o'clock.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, we're gonna move on now, we got the update with Congressman Ryan Jenkins, field representative, we got.
You here?
I don't remember.
Oh, I'm here.
Thank you. Sticking with you now.
So Linda.
I just don't know how, see, this is what I don't understand, how you. You know what?
Years ago, you have the legal description right here with 1 acre. And they moved it, it's right here, right?
Yeah.
That's the legal description. So they did a boundary adjustment and moved it all the way down here. There was no
yeah,
well, one
boundary line. at
One
all.
thing, I encourage, since we already tabled it, I think you can go up and talk to Linda, but I wouldn't have it in open meeting.
Oh, okay.
That's my bad. I'm just asking questions.
You can do your own independent research, so you can go up and talk to them.
I'm just making a comment.
That would be. All right, well, we're on at 1 o'clock, we're.
Not here.
Yeah, I don't know where he is.
How's it going?
Hi,
You here? You here to talk to Representative Zicky's person?
No, she's here for
Or-
interviews we have with Dr.
Oh.
Mayor.
Represent whoever you would like.
Yeah, yes, you will.
You can't hold it against what I might say.
No, you got your opinions and they're valued.
Judy coming or not?
I don't know.
Said he was coming.
He said he was coming. He will also be at your joint sessions meeting though as well, so. Got nothing.
No, we're in a couple more minutes,
Okay.
It's only 6 minutes late.
you know, but I don't know.
He's not on Zoom, no.
No,
So if you're not gonna be at the joint sessions, which is canceled. I remember you were missing last time.
No, I.
He was at Paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was.
I was at Paramount.
Yeah.
You missing.
Yeah, you were missing down here. Last time there was one down here.
No, I was here down.
I can't remember the last, we had the,
It was.
one like a couple years ago, wasn't it? Was there one since?
We had one down in Drummond. And then it's kind of because of COVID, it was, then the next one was at Bearmouth. The only ones that we actually,
No, I remember we were at the one down there, just
In
you and me.
Drummond. yeah,
We had
yeah,
to fight off everybody.
yeah, we did.
I know that. I've been to a lot of them.
They get contentious?
Mhm.
Was it contentious, that one?
Oh, we were so good. We even were friends. We even sat next to them.
Alright.
I'm kidding.
Oh, you're friends.
Gotta watch my mouth sometimes. Insert foot.
I do. That's weird, man.
I'm sorry.
I'll forward you guys that. I'll clarify some stuff with her, but.
Yeah. I was trying to count the actual legal descriptions. He doesn't have reference. He doesn't have row and page on reference. Oh, yeah, he does. Never mind. Oh, but
We tabled it.
I know, I'm just taking a comment. Okay.
Didn't email me, you didn't call me. Get a phone call, but let's see. I thought I had his number saved. I didn't have a message though. If that is him. No, it's not his number. I don't know.
And entertain a motion, we. Done.
Someone here.
I don't know. I look up what a lot.
You're coming somewhere.
That's Vicky.
Mhm.
Oh, that's Vicky, but oh no, that's our new car. I get mixed up.
I don't know who that is. I don't think that's Jack though, in the red truck.
Got the new vehicle being backed in. Why did they feel that back in?
Yeah, that seems to be the tradition.
Huh?
Seems to be the tradition.
Oh, yeah. And took up 2 parking spots to do it.
They want to hit anything.
Let's see.
No one wants.
It's me there.
Let's see. You see, it did.
Maybe she has a big stuff to get out of this side of it.
Okay.
You're right, though. It's tough to back it up and get it, where you're just taking up one spot, so.
There's no line out there, is there?
No, but if we get rid of that other thing, then you could have pulled right in there.
It's true story.
I don't like.
Get out of the car and identify yourself.
I don't think nobody's done it.
It's Sarah.
Oh, Sarah went to the post office.
She doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff.
Nope. I entertain a motion. Yeah. Second. I don't know.
Okay, do you wanna wait? Let's wait till quarter up. And wait just 3 more minutes.
Okay.
I know, it's gotta get. I am the. It's nice and warm. It's,
Beautiful.
I didn't even understand.
Now, water's gonna start coming.
Yeah.
I take my,
Is
one
it?
of my cats to the vet yesterday, it cost me $281.
For your cat?
Because a bad cat came in attack.
I don't know.
Maybe you could get a handle.
There you go.
The building on. The building. The superfund. Building on superfund.
Oh, that mediation and, with Becky, I asked them to take the contingency and Becky asked what that was. Is there another name for that or do you want to just talk to her about where it should come from?
What,
It was just the mediation expense in back eight case,
contingency?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
but Becky said there's not one named contingency, they must have a name something else.
There's not one what?
Named
Named contingency fund.
What would it be under? if not-
It's under,
You want to just,
there, it doesn't say contingency, but there's the one line item that is for all insurances, and then there's the other line item for anything
Yeah.
else.
granted, yeah. This is just. It could come out of your special counsel too, but I thought it was contingency.
So probably for a better paper trail, I think special counsel out of
The
the,
cat, commissioner, special
Yeah.
counsel. Sounds good.
because it actually isn't a contingency either yet, right?
Well, it's part of the litigation, but yeah, where you guys want to
Yeah.
take it.
What do you think?
Special counsel.
And there isn't, what is 21. 21. Let's look. On 190, comprehensive insurance. And we're actually. Open for taxes because it's in the negative 41,000. But 2190. What's this one? Expenditure. Budget. I mean, I even have it open. Expenditure budget.
Here's the order of.
Please?
So there, yeah, it is, there's.
Here's the order of
contingencies.
them.
Oh,
Jeremiah liked.
you want out of there, special counsel,
And the
no,
last
yeah.
See it under comprehensive
If anyone's
insurance,
unsure about
there is insurance premium and contingencies.
How much you have in it?
There's 4,000 in the budget for contingencies.
How much you have in special counsel right now?
We're in negative, oh, special counsel? I don't know, But-
It's
probably.
not really
special
special, yeah,
counsel.
the mediator is.
Yeah.
You're all done?
Yep.
All right,
But there is an object.
adjourned.
For contingencies.